And welcome back to Mixed Media Live. We're here for another Monday of awesome stuff with your favorite hosts, us three. And we'll be talking about anything basically art media related. And without delaying too much, we should introduce ourselves. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur. I own a company named Ariella based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer in Los Angeles.
Oh.
Sorry. I was muted. I'm Nathan Nestor, a 3D modeler and video game developer.
Sweet. Yeah, and if you don't know, if you're new to the podcast, Mixed Media is a weekly live stream podcast that happens every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and we talk about all things art. You know, you heard our little backgrounds, so it tends to be related to those things, whether it's gaming, media, music, movies, sometimes 3D modeling, sometimes a whole bunch of other stuff, but we tend to talk about those things. So if you like any of those things, definitely stick around, because you've definitely not heard some of the weird topics and very niche depth knowledge that you'll find on this podcast very often. So definitely check out our channel and hit the subscribe button if you like what you see and you want to expand your very niche knowledge. But yeah, that's the show. Actually, before we go on to talk about our own individual weeks, there's some exciting news with this particular episode. Guess what episode number this is?
This is 100?
This is episode 100 of the Mixed Media Podcast.
It's like 2 years.
Yeah. Has it been 2 years?
It's 2 weeks, right? So, for a year. I mean, we skipped some weeks.
We skipped some.
So longer than 2 years,
yeah.
Really.
Huh. So, guys, we're 100 podcast episodes old, which makes us ancient. So if you haven't checked out our stuff, there's tons and tons, hours. Imagine our extremely long 2 to 4 hour conversations, 4 hours in the really worst cases. Over 100 episodes. That's like 200 to 400 hours of us blabbering on about things that we hope that you also care about. So yeah, this is pretty big. I didn't notice this until I went and was creating the assets for this episode, and I number them for my own internal organization, and I saw 100. I was like, huh, maybe we should have done something special for it, but okay. Doesn't matter now. But yeah, thank you for all those, especially here, 4 people who have made the show very possible going forward, which is 99 Crime, Rob Sharma, Post, and Kai Kairos, for supporting us for $5 a month at our locals page, which is mixedmedia.locals.com. And if you're on Rumble right now, I see some people filtering in. Shout out to you, Rumble people. There were 2 of you talking last time. It was amazing. It was a party. And if you see that salmon join button right there, that brings you right to our support page, which helps us out immensely. So thank you to those 4 awesome people on this 100th episode, I don't know, thing. And we're all here for this one, so it's appropriate. Definitely appropriate. Okay, well, with that aside, how are your guys' weeks? I see Ben is glowing. He's literally, like, radiating like vacation energy. Oh,
I don't know about that, but yeah, I just got back last night from visiting my brother in Hawaii. So
yeah, how was that?
It was nice.
Cool. Yeah, were you? I only realized later that you're like, well, because you're in Hawaii, your hours are really off. Is it like 6 hours or?
Well, Hawaii
from the East Coast?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. Cool. Anything else happening in Ben world?
No, nothing remarkable.
Well, that's good. That's how vacation should be. How about you, Nathan?
It's my first week of full-time work, so that was interesting. Which means that I didn't have much time to do anything else, so that's it.
Wow, everyone's just chilling. Yeah. What's been going on with me? Oh, so there's this platform called. I'm gonna mess it up. I'm gonna pull up the link right now before I screw this up. But there's a new platform, video streaming platform, and I was kind of like, when I say new, I mean like literally launched within the last week. And the reason I know about it is because a friend of a friend knew the founder, and then was just like, "Hey, you should talk to this guy." And so, yeah, I talked to the guy, and he was explaining to me the platform. It's pretty cool. Now, it's a very niche, it has a niche. It's not like, obviously trying to compete with, like, YouTube, because that would be absurd. But its niche is sort of like Catholic-adjacent content. So basically anything... So including just... if you're a Catholic filmmaker like me, just post my stuff, which is not particularly Catholic in any particular way, on my YouTube channel, but I could just post that stuff on that platform. So I'm posting there now, which is fun. And if you are a content creator that can sort of fit the mission of the platform, I highly recommend you do it, because there's only gain because of their business model is absolutely awesome. Meaning, as long as you post, you don't have to do anything exclusive, you don't have to sign any contracts, so long as you post a certain amount per month, which is 3 per month, you get and you're posting your YouTube embed links, by the way, so you're not even posting the video fresh, meaning that the views on that platform contribute to your YouTube views. So there's literally only gain, only gain here. You get a certain slice of the revenue of the platform. The person who runs it runs a very, very successful Catholic blog that I'd never heard of, but then I was looking at their Patreon numbers and I was like, oh.
What's the name of the blog?
I think it's like Catholicism for the Modern World or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. They say it's one of the biggest Catholic blogs. I'd never heard of it before before then. But the name of the platform, the acronym is IAM, but I believe it's like Isidore Arcutis Media or something like this. I'm probably butchering that, but I'll put the link in the chat in a moment once I copy paste it. So check me out on there. I think I'm front page right now, which is pretty cool. So so yeah, go ahead and check that out. And then what else is going on? I wrote down something else, I think. Oh yes. As I mentioned last episode, I'm doing a Give, Send, Go about taking a trip to Dealey Plaza to scan it, do a 3D scan of Dealey Plaza. A really fun project, sort of like a communal educational project, and I'll be handing that file over to the whole world to use however they desire, for animations, for documentaries, for just exploring, for web tours, whatever the heck you want. But I need money to go to Dallas, because I can't just sacrifice a week of my work and go to Dallas and pay for the flights and everything. So I created Give, Send, Go for that. If you go to givesendgo.com/DealeyPlaza, you'll see the donation page on there. I'm very happy to say that since I last I launched it like a few hours after the last podcast, and now we've raised $110. So I was scared it's going to be zero. So there we go, $110. So it's a modest goal. You won't break the bank. If you go to givesendgo.com/DealeyPlaza, you'd help me out. I planned on live streaming the whole trip too, because it'd be fun. So yeah, and you can learn about the whole impetus for the whole thing on that page. And that's it for me. How about any news?
Well, they, as I posted about in Discord, they r/gaming news is like protesting. So my Reddit source of news is non-existent. And then I was like, let me spool up that old program I made that like just like scrapes all these a bunch of news sources for news.
Yeah.
Because Reddit is like a nice aggregation tool, right? It's like you can get a bunch of different sources or whatever. And my tool, and so I was like, oh, I can just replace it by using my tool to do that. And then like I ran it, it didn't work. I was like, I haven't changed this code in like years, but okay, you know, like that's that's great. I think I was just missing. I think I had to install something, but I didn't have time. So I can't really think of anything right now. Bethesda did announce or release a trailer for a game called Starfield, which would be like an RPG type game apparently. I don't think much is known about that. There are some leaks about it. I haven't looked at them. I don't really intend to. But yeah, apparently a lot can be known from those leaks. But otherwise, not much known.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, I don't really have much. I haven't been paying a ton of attention in the past week or so while I was on vacation. So yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I was extremely busy last week, so I didn't really notice that much. I noticed there were some box office numbers coming into my email about different films. I saw that Transformer. I don't remember the numbers, and I'm not going to look them up right now, so you can look them up yourself. But the numbers that popped up in front of me was there's a new Transformers movie that I absolutely did not know was coming out. And I feel like I'm not the demographic for movies anymore. I never get movie ads. Is that weird? That's very strange. Or maybe I've successfully insulated myself from like all the trackers and stuff like this. I don't know. Unlikely, but I never see trailers anymore, pretty much. But Transformers seems to be doing well from what I remember from the numbers. And what else is there? Oh, and Little Mermaid, I believe the numbers are kind of middling numbers. So, if it was any other movie, it'd be doing decently. But because of what it is, it's not doing well at all. We've discussed that with like Marvel numbers before. It's the same sort of sag, that you see with Marvel numbers. And I heard that the budget for that film was extravagant. I did not realize how much money they spent. I guess on the CG. I don't know. I don't know what they spent it on. But extravagant budget, and that means that they might have actually managed to somehow be in danger of only barely, making money, which is kind of crazy. So,
I mean, is it like I think Solo, the Star Wars, Solo, a Star Wars story, lost money actually, despite like making a lot of, making a lot of the box office.
That's crazy. I didn't know that.
I think it actually lost money.
That's insane.
Or at very least, like, kind of it was around breaking even.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's possible. What is telling Disney to keep making these remakes of, remakes? Like, what is giving them that, like, that's what the people want? Is that going to attract people to Disney Plus? Because,
well, that's what I think they desire. Pretty much every film release these days to do is to attract people to Disney Plus. I don't see how this does that, though. To be honest, I don't really get it.
I mean, I understand, like, musically it's great. If you're on our Discord, you saw my little rant about why they changed Scuttle the Gull into a Gannet, which makes, like, there's no reason to do that, like.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just wonder what the need for it is. Like, is that exciting enough?
Honestly, I think it's the Marvel syndrome where with Marvel they were like, oh, we found the formula because they were making so much money originally, right? And they just keep chasing down the formula no matter what, no matter if the numbers keep declining. It's just the chase after the initial success. And the same thing, probably because some of the first remakes made tons of money. Some of the first live, like Beauty and the Beast, made tons of money. I think Aladdin even made tons of money. So, yeah, I mean, then they were like, let's make Little Mermaid and everything else.
Well, they also, like, I don't know. They're doing Lilo and Stitch next, and
That's such a bad idea.
That is the worst idea. That's like the worst one I can think of.
Sounds Sorry. Sounds like it's like ripe for like just like the most scary images ever.
yeah, I mean, I feel like Stitch is probably fine.
I don't know.
You can probably do Stitch, but some of the like
The aliens.
Gontu and I can't think of what the other aliens' names are. Become a lot more difficult. You know, Stitch is like supposed to be kind of cute. It's the whole point. It's supposed to look cute and cuddly, and then be like.
But do you give him hair,
killer.
or like do you make
like
him
a reptile like scaly thing?
Well, hair. I mean, why he's a
Does he
furry.
have hair? Wait.
Yeah, but they make a whole big
Oh, yeah,
point.
he
It's
is a
like a
hair, yeah.
furry creature. Yeah.
But the thing is, like hair in 2D is very
It doesn't
different.
look the same, yeah, because it's like it's just like a flat color, you know, like.
Yeah, I don't think like I feel like Stitch would probably be the easiest one to make look convincing.
You have the most flexibility with Stitch, that's for sure.
Yeah, when you have like whatever the guy's name is who has like the one eye, you know, who's basically like his entire face is like an eye, like that has a lot of I can't remember what the character's name is,
I
but
can't
that
remember
has that has a sorry, I just got a message from my landlord.
No, it's okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that has a lot of potential for not looking good.
Yeah.
His name is Wendy Pleakley.
Wendy what?
Pleakley? I
Okay,
think I've heard
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Oh, I remember the jokes about his name being Wendy. Yeah, I do remember that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's familiar.
Well, Disney will continue apparently to the ends of the earth until they're going to do Treasure Planet, I'm sure, and they're going to do every last obscure, maybe they're going to make is Iron Giant a Disney film? Or is it a
I think it is Disney, right? I feel like I've seen. See.
I don't.
Oh no, it's not. It's not.
Yeah.
Produced by the Warner Bros.
Okay. Well, I'm sure Warner Brothers will do that themselves at some point. But yeah, that's all the news I had was those things I noticed in the box. I would have the numbers pulled up, except I don't. So
I have news now, by the way. I remember things that happened. They're actually kind of big. I don't know why I forgot. But I guess the smaller thing is Bethesda, I said, released a trailer for a game, but also Ubisoft showed off some gameplay of a new Star Wars game called Star Wars Outlaws, which is kind of interesting. And I mean, it's described as a sandbox action game starring a solo-like scoundrel for hire on the lawless planet of the Outer Rim. I feel like at this point Ubisoft needs some like genre of game because like they're all kind of like the same, not literally the same, but they're like the same type of game for sure,
yeah.
And not oftentimes not in like a very interesting way, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean I do feel like though the sort of like a solo-like character would lend itself well to Ubisoft's type experience. So maybe that
makes sense.
Yeah, maybe that'll work out well. Were you gonna say something? Oh no.
I was gonna say it's only a matter of time until Disney just buys Ubisoft and it is just making Disney IP alone, just churning it out and doing the same thing they did with movies in gaming.
Yeah, that's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
And then aside from that, Apple had their WWDC conference, which I think stands for like Worldwide Developers Conference, I think it is. And they showed off the Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Have you guys seen that?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's like a VR/AR headset that goes for $3,500. That being said, it does have some cool features. So, for one, like I first thought the screen, the thing itself was transparent, but actually it just has it's a little bit worse, unfortunately. But if you look at an image of it, you can see people's eyes through it. It's like, how does that work? It's just a screen. It's just a screen that projects their eyes onto it.
That has a potential Meme factor.
Especially because that means that they're like the angle, the perspective isn't correct. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The perspective can't be correct because there are certain angles where it's gonna be like, wait, your eyes like off your face, like considerably off your face. So,
dude, I was so excited when I saw the eyes because for my esport, there's
I see
a potential for I've described this issue probably to Nathan and anyone else who's currently involved with the esport. But there's a problem where the VR headset allows for action to occur like on camera properly. Like there's like head movement and like, you know, like so they're like the game is more tied to physical motion, right? But then the problem becomes you can't see people's expressions because they have a huge chunk of like technology like strapped to their face. So then, you know, it's a give take in from the media perspective, and this pass through idea, like where you could see the like underlying expression of the person, that was so exciting. And then they said it was a screen and not a translucent thing. And then I was like, huh, that might look terrible in real life. I'm not sure. We'd have to see like a real, you know, a real actual model of it to see, because the ad images obviously are very massaged. So who knows what it looks like in real life.
I put something in stream media just now. Can you put that on the screen? Because it actually is a little more terrifying than I originally thought. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Wait, do you have a link instead of
instead of like
yeah, copy the image link into the
yeah.
It's just faster for me to drop it into the editor.
Yeah, I'll get that. Open the image tab, copy.
It's a
oh wait, like embeds like immediately. I don't know if I can like stop that from happening, you know. If you click on it, then click
I can copy the Discord link. Does that work?
The copy is the message, not
the copy. No, the Discord image link. No.
Oh, wait, you can. Wait, you see it? How do you see it?
Oh wait, maybe not.
The copy text. Oh, right click on it and copy text. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
yeah, I'll pull that up. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. So I guess the cool thing about it is that it actually tracks your eyes. So where you're looking, you can, like, for example, look at some icons, and then I wonder if it can. I assume it can capture your blinks too, so maybe you can blink at something. Oh, that's actually bad. You might, just blink naturally, and then you click on something. So that's not a good idea. But looking at you can, look at things, and that's, if you're watching on audio only, you've been spared from the most dead-looking eyes. I don't know. It sounds creepy. Like,
I have no idea why they chose this as the image.
I feel like it has to be better. Like, I feel like I didn't notice this before, but I just looked at Apple Vision Pro, and like one of the first images is this. I'm like, oh, this is not like.
This is gonna go full screen. Here you go for your viewing pleasure.
Wonderful.
Oh man, what a deadpan look.
Yeah. I mean, it's it's something that could be interesting. I mean, I don't really see much gaming stuff going on with it because it's $3,500. So who is going to be developing for an item that like 7 people have? Okay, well, there you go.
it's think about it more like a VR version of a monitor.
Oh yeah, I remember them saying you can watch TV and stuff like that with it, right? And like it'll project it has cameras on the outside that aren't monochrome on the Quest ones, which are black and white.
Why would you need that to watch TV?
Well, the thing is, I think the idea is you can replace TV, so you don't need a TV anymore. You can just put the headset on and project the TV, which is horrible because literally no one else can watch TV with you anymore. Like, you're just staring at nothing. Like, no one can see anything.
Your friends are all online, Nathan. You don't need friends in real life.
Imagine you come home.
Imagine all the iMessages you could receive while watching the movie, Nathan.
I don't know. I feel like that's a very bad selling point, given that, like, literally, imagine like you have kids, right? And like your kid's watching TV, or your kid's on your headset now, and there is no more headset to go around. No one can view whatever's being viewed. Like, it's just so dumb.
You're supposed to buy one for every family member. Obviously.
I'm curious, is it possible to project them all to a same like shared display? I wonder if they did something like that. I don't know who's buying multiple $3,000-$5,000 headsets though. Let alone one. That's a tad bit expensive, but I don't know. I mean, it's like a cool technology, I guess, but I mean, it seems fairly impractical, especially based on the price point at the moment.
I will say, in its defense, though, not that not that I'm terribly defending it, but in its defense, it's not trying to compete in the same category of VR headsets as like the Quest or like the Index or something, which are like gaming-oriented VR headsets. It's trying to compete with like $10,000 headsets meant for developing 3D models, developing other types of stuff, simulations. It's trying to extend the Apple brand into the VR space, which the Apple brand is about creating, right? That's like the whole, like creators use Apple, which I don't use Apple, but that's their brand. So there are headsets that are for the same market but are like way more expensive. So they actually will probably sell a lot of these headsets to a niche market, not to the general market, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And aside from that, though, they also WWDC, they showed off some like I don't know. I'm trying to like look for it. I don't know why I can't find it. Like this should be like a big news item. I feel like it was like a thing they used to translate, I think, Windows games into Mac games essentially. I don't know why I just cannot find it. Gaming, like a compatibility layer maybe. Here, Apple is releasing a new developer tool that aims to make porting games over from Windows 11 to Mac OS a lot easier. It's coming true Mac gaming becomes a reality. It won't, but yeah, I feel like Linux has been trying this long. Like, I don't really know if like suddenly like one program will revolutionize, the Windows to Unix system pipeline. Like I don't know about that. Well, the game porting toolkit is what they call it, has been designed to let developers run DirectX 12 Windows-based games on macOS almost instantly. So, yeah, apparently it performs pretty well and is able to port quite a few things. So, yeah, maybe we'll see some more Mac games in the future because there's like a barren space there. So, yeah, that's what I have.
Cool. Well, that's it for news. So, if you enjoyed this segment at all, if you have any news to add or any commentary on the news, drop it in the chat, and we might come back to it sometime later in the podcast, or we can discuss it on Discord, the link to our Discord's in the description. It's always popping, always happening, and you can discover also a bunch of random niche knowledge in the Discord as well, because we have the most, I would say, like, just like dedicated to their craft people in that Discord. It's awesome. So yeah, head over there in the link in the description. Right now we're going to go over to our next segment, which is a mixed media review, or I guess a me review of ROSHOMON, which is a 1950 Japanese film, and I'm excited to talk about it. And it's going to be completely off the dome. So hopefully it goes well. And if you want to see that, stay tuned. After that, we'll be arguing with Reddit. And then after that, will be Nathan talking about Roblox. So that's the order for today.
Without context, that sounds incredibly stupid. I'm talking about Roblox, but...
Oh, yeah. Well, from well, you want to explain briefly in one sentence?
I was talking about the mostly unseen potential of Roblox.
Okay, there you go.
So, yeah. A little bit better.
Sweet. All right, ROSHOMON, here we go.
Mixed Media Movies.
And welcome back to Mixed Media. If you've been watching live, thank you so much for hanging around with us. You guys are awesome. This is episode number 100. 100. So this is a, I guess, important episode from a numerical standpoint, although it's kind of just an average episode from every other standpoint. But our episodes are great, so hopefully you enjoy. Before I go into my topic for the day, we'll introduce ourselves again. So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, and my company is called ROSHOMON.
Hi, I'm Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer living in Los Angeles.
And I'm Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and a video game developer.
Sweet. And again, if you're tuning in for the first time, this is a show where we talk about our favorite things, which are all over the art space in particular spaces that we occupy. So let's get into ROSHOMON. So recently I went on a on a Blu-ray bender, which happens every time there's a sale. I forget that sales happen until they happen, and then when they happen, I'm like, I just have to. I have to partake in these Blu-ray sales. And one of the companies that does this is Criterion. So I highly, highly recommend Criterion discs, by the way. They're fantastic. The packaging is fantastic. Definitely, I guess I wouldn't say, like, collector quality per se, but they have staying power, unlike this stupid little plasticky, like, silly, these are plastic too, but the thin plasticky blue, typical Blu-ray disc. These are well packaged. They look really nice on a shelf. In fact, I have a stack of Blu-rays next to me because I'm reorganizing them. Let's see if any one of these is Criterion. Oh, I have ROSHOMON. There we go. Oh, Ben has some too. There we go. There we go. Here it is. Here's my copy of ROSHOMON right there. And these are great because it feels good to own them. And not only that, they have rare stuff in these discs, like stuff you can't find on YouTube, which obviously is crazy because you can find almost anything online. These discs have like literal valuable information you could not possibly get anywhere else. In the case of the ROSHOMON disc, I have to show this off. We have this great booklet that includes a ton of information about the background of the making of the film. After I watched the film, I just was leafing through this, and I was like astounded with the density of information. It contains like the original printed short story that was printed in Japanese newspaper. These packages are phenomenal. If you find them on sale, they are definitely worth their tag price. If you're going to buy them full price, they're still worth it if you can afford it, but I can understand also if it's a bit much, for your wallet. I get that. Put that back. And physical media companies are kind of struggling right now, and hopefully Criterion doesn't end up in that category. Seems like the UK ones are the ones who are struggling the most, unfortunately. So back to ROSHOMON. Like I said in the last segment, this film was made in 1950, and is one of Kurosawa. If you don't know who Akira Kurosawa is, he's one of the most praised filmmakers, in the film canon, period. One of the most talked about figures in film. And this, I realized, is actually my first Kurosawa film. I had thought I had watched another Kurosawa film before, and then I realized that what I was thinking of was Harakiri, and I realized that was not Kurosawa. I was like, wait, that's not a Kurosawa film. Great film, by the way. I don't know if did I do an episode on it?
I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, that's gotta be an episode one day. But that's a great film. Definitely in the sort of Kurosawa school of thought of filmmaking for sure, and is contemporary to Kurosawa as well. But 1950, so this is in black and white on film and on tape when it comes to the audio.
I mean, Kurosawa stuck with black and white until like 1992 or something like that.
This guy was filmmaking until I think the booklet said I didn't know this, but I think he was filmmaking until he was 93.
Right, and that's if you saw that quote from Tarantino like a couple of weeks ago, where he's like, now I know what like Kurosawa meant, where it's like, I finally understand what filmmaking, like he's quoting Kurosawa, being an old filmmaker.
Yeah.
Not having the time, finally understanding what cinema can do, but not having the time to do it.
Yeah, that sounds depressing. But I get that. That's a whole thought in itself. But this is way early in his career. So this is in 1950 versus into the 90s when he's still making films. Very different world. In 1950, and he made this film after reading the short story that was in the newspaper, the Japanese newspaper, in a sort of fiction column, and then there was a book that was written by the same author who wrote those short stories. He wrote like an expanded, sort of novel around the same universe, and Kurosawa decided to base it off of the book, this film. And he takes some liberties with some of the details, but by and large, like, the story structure is the exact same. It sounds like, I obviously haven't read the book, but from what I see, it sounds like the story structure is essentially the same. So I don't know what the career trajectory looked like. Like, I don't know if he was already respected by 1950. I don't know if, like, he was just getting whatever. I do know he was working in the industry for a while, but not as a director by this point.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I've seen a lot of his films.
Okay,
but I think he was kind of got somewhat of a start as a director after, in the aftermath of World War II. But this is I don't think he'd done some smaller features before this.
Okay, so is this essentially his breakout film?
I don't even know that it was that important at the time. Although I could be wrong about that.
I can see that.
I think it's taken a lot of historical significance since then, but I don't know that it was the biggest moment in his launching his career.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I will say that as an intro to Kurosawa, this is probably not, if you want to be blown away, and be this guy is he's we understand the largeness of his figure. This film is probably not the right place to start. But that's not to say this film is bad. I'm just saying this film is definitely being more simple, right? In its execution. It's not like he's trying to make the best masterpiece ever made, if that makes sense. Were you guys say something, Ben? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I saw The Idiot. Is based off a Dostoevsky novel back as an undergrad when we were reading The Idiot by Dostoevsky, and that is definitely not the film I would start with. I think you'd be better. Not that you should start with ROSHOMON, but I think that would be a better place to start than The Idiot, late Kurosawa. I don't know. From what I've seen, I haven't seen all of his films, but I don't know. I really like Yojimbo, but it's not the deepest film. It's kind of a really fantastically made, fun samurai film.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be. That's kind of where I started when I actually started watching a lot of his films.
Actually, quick question. What is his the way he uses music in his films? Is it roughly the same around? And what is it like, generally speaking?
I haven't actually think about that. I haven't been a while, not that long, but I feel like, from what I recall, there's not there's not a ton of music, and it tends to be I think he had one composer for most of his career.
Okay.
Yeah, and samurai films certainly have their own sound to them. In comparison to the kind of character dramas that are a little more subdued.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about this film is that it is more of a character drama for sure, but it also has some samurai film just moments in there, if you get what I mean, where we're focusing on the flashy action bits, and I'll circle back to that, but the music of ROSHOMON is very interesting in the sense that it's very deliberately so that the action scenes have no music and the character moments have music. That's just the language that he picked, for the film, and really makes the action sequences feel very honest. Because everything's just the soundscape that the sound designer made, which is very sparse, and very 50s, early 50s-esque in its sort of execution, where we're really focusing on, do the swords clang together, then we get a clanging sound. Otherwise, it's pretty much just the actors breathing and maybe a few other sounds thrown in here and there. But it's interesting that he chose to strip down the music for those action sequences instead of let the music sort of like cover the soundscape a little bit.
I feel like that is not what he ended up doing later in his career.
Yeah.
But, I have to I'm trying to remember. I certainly think like if you watch like High and Low, it's the opposite.
Oh,
not that there's like a ton of action. High and Low is not a samurai film at all.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like that's one where like in the more action-esque moments, there's music. And like when you get like the kind of monologue of the villain staring at you at the end of the film, I don't think there's any music there.
Interesting. Oh, that's interesting. So there's a soliloquy at the end of that film.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's High and Low is interesting. Like the beginning and the end are really good. And, like the middle is like a police drama sort of, and like to me it's not as effective because of that. But the beginning and the end are really good.
Interesting. I feel like these other details from the other films are very interesting. It's kind of, I feel like I'm understanding better now. But the interesting thing about this film is that it very much so feels like, going back to Harakiri, which is I can't remember the filmmaker's name at the moment, which is a phenomenal film, one of the best films I've ever seen, and that the story structure for Harakiri is very much so unconcerned about the stupid, rigid 3-act structure, which wasn't even popular, not in the same way we think about it today at the time. Really, it's a blockbuster-ism, when it comes into full force, which is more like a 70s, 80s sort of thing. But still, though, there was still the idea of sort of like beginning, middle, end, and that's how you sort of like flesh out your story, beginning, middle, end, for people who are lazy. Harakiri is not structured like that at all. In fact, it's structured so uniquely that the whole thing feels like the most brilliant roller coaster ride ever devised, because we are so far outside of the typical beats of a story that it really truly feels fresh, and that's a 1950s film as well. So there's no excuse for y'all out there who are making movies today, and the stale formula. You could be doing so much more.
Hey, what's that movie called you're talking about?
Harakiri. It's Harakiri.
I see.
Or if you're an American, you say Harry Carey. Because it's a sort of borrowed word as well.
You get the Wikipedia for the word, not the.
It's a borrowed word. Yeah.
I was like, I'm thinking borrowed. Huh?
It's a borrowed word. Harikiri. Harikari. Yeah.
What do you mean borrowed? Borrowed from? You mean between languages?
From Japanese.
It's an English word, too.
I guess in a sense, like it's used in.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So ROSHOMON is in the same way, in the sense that its structure, it has a much more familiar structure to it, but it has the same sort of idea of just being a roller coaster in a lot of ways, because it doesn't feel like any other story you're typically used to watching. And this is why I recommend people go outside the box once in a while and pick up something completely different, so that they can know potentially what they're missing, and then also what they should demand and critique of the films that they're seeing today, right? Is picking up some stuff like this. And one of the reasons, one of the ways this sort of device is done from the writing perspective of throwing you around with the acts being completely paced differently than you think, is both Harakiri and this film use story within a story as a writing device. So it's a legend of a legend, if that makes sense, in both cases, which is very. It's a vibe. It's like it's a very like specific vibe. In Harikiri, it uses the legend within a legend to play with you not knowing what is real. Like what is the actual story? You know what I mean? Like the real story. Or you questioning the whole time, is this the real story? This seems a little fantastical. But then sometimes it gets stripped back, right, to feel more realistic. And then you're like, I don't know, is this a legend or is this real, you know? In this thing, we have a murder mystery. Technically a murder R***PE mystery. For the YouTube censor. This means that our sort of device of telling that legend within a legend and starving us of the information of what is true, because we don't know if what we're looking at is just one person's version of the story, or is it the God's eye view of the story, or like what the heck is it a blend or something? Like the whole time you are so focused, you are so thrown around with the different writing devices of the film. Yeah, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong too. Isn't like there's also like the part where they like summon the spirit of one of the dead characters, and like the dead can't lie, right? Make that point.
Oh, it's so good. That literally shocked me out of it. I was like, what is going on? Because basically it's a murder mystery, and you have different characters coming before the court to give their version of events of what they saw in relation to this murder. Including some eyewitnesses, right? And we're going through the first time we go through the story, we are not sure whether we're looking at the God's eye view, because we have not established the mechanism yet of like we're going through each person's story. We don't know that's what's going to happen, right? So the first time we see it, we're looking at it as if we're looking at potentially the God's eye view, but then there's some narration in there and you're like, I don't know, or is it this person's view of the whole thing? I don't know. And then you go to the second person, and their version of the story actually just fleshes out details from the first person story that the first person didn't see, which leaves it still ambiguous as to whether or not what you're seeing is more of the truth or not, because they're not contradicting each other on details, because the first person story ends where the second person story begins, basically. Then we have the third person come in, and then you start to understand that we're getting different people's perspective of the same story, because now we have contradictory detail. But at this point, you're like an hour into the film, or like, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes into the film. So you've already gone on this roller coaster of like, what's real, what's not, for like 45 minutes, you know? And then after that, the dead gets summoned. The dead gets summoned. The guy who was murdered gets summoned to tell his version of the story. And then you're watching and you're like, this must be the scene. Now you're at the third part. You finally understand you're seeing different people's points of view. But then you're given the dead's point of view. Now you're thrown for a complete loop, because you're like, what's going on here? Is it just some sort of like sham? Or is it really the dead guy like giving his story? And dead people, do they lie? Like, you know? And then you get this complete retelling of the whole story that's, again, completely different, and by the end is so like ridiculously self-aggrandizing by the end of the story that you're like, okay, we can't even trust the dead. You know what I mean? By the time we get to the end of the story, we've had all these narrators narrating their narration. We have like a narrationception. We have three guys at the beginning of the film who are telling the story of being at court, telling the story. Like, that's the degrees of separation we have from the story. And so by the end, we go back to the three guys who are telling the story of being at court, telling the story. And one of them reveals that he actually knew what was going, or that he was actually there, and didn't tell the court that he was there to witness the actual events. That's the first guy whose story, I believe, or am I mistaking that? Is that the first guy? Yeah, that's the first guy, I believe, whose story ends supposedly where the second person's story begins. And the amazing part about this is that now we're thrown for a loop again. So, like, you thought there was some sort of mechanism you could trust in the writing. No. Like, fourth time, now he's like, you know what? Everything you said is BS, because I actually saw it. And the guys are like, no way did you see it. We don't believe you. Out of all people who are just out of nowhere saying that you've seen the whole thing, and why didn't you tell it to the court? And the guy said he just didn't want to get himself in trouble and involve himself in the whole thing. And then he tells his version of the story, and you're sort of left. Well, I'm gonna have to do some spoilers at the end here. Unfortunately. Because the ending is very interesting, and I've seen a lot of writing about the ending, and I think maybe it's interpreted it a little bit more complex than it probably was meant. But at the end here, we have this moment where I think what we're supposed to feel is to feel that his story is probably accurate because it does not self-aggrandize like everyone else's story. So everybody's story is sort of self-aggrandizing. The lady who is the R*PE victim, she comes over like a mouse basically before the court, and she's just like, wallowing and being like, forgive me, and like all this stuff. I ran away because I didn't know what to do, and I was so terrorized. And then when she gets into her story, you're like, hang on, this is kind of weird. Like, a lot of parts of the story are very strange. So you're saying that like you were like, oh, I can't possibly choose who to go with, so I made them fight to the death? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Crazy stuff. So I think what we're meant to feel is that because this other guy wasn't inside the story, like, he's not actually in the events at all, he doesn't play a role, that his story is most likely to be true, just based off of that fact alone. Then what we find out is that he lies by omission about this story, even this story that he told, because he lied that he profited off of the murder of this man by stealing a very valuable dagger that was left behind at the scene, which turns out to be the reason why he actually didn't say that he was at the scene, because then people might ask, well, there's a dagger in the story, where's the actual dagger? And people would be looking at him, right, as the person who stole the dagger, because he did steal the dagger and pawn it off. And I think the point of that aspect of it is we're getting this whole time at the top level of the narration. I would call it like the philosophical level of the narration, right? Like the three guys who are in the ROSHOMON, which is this abandoned temple. And they are talking about their experience at court, but in that level of narration, they tend to talk about morals. They tend to talk about philosophy. They tend to talk about things like that, and it's not as much focused on the details of the story as it is about the, I guess, duality of man, right? Like, is man evil inherently, or is man good inherently, and these sorts of questions. And I think the point of him being guilty of stealing the dagger is to say that even this man who is mostly telling the truth can't help but to say this white lie, right? Like, there's like this tragedy of I guess of original sin, if you want to put it that way, right? Like it's displaying that even though this guy seems to be mostly good, there's still this aspect of malfeasance, right? In his actions. And the other side of that coin, though, and this is the part where I think a lot of people who review the film's ending, I think maybe read a little bit too much into it. I think the other side of the coin is that he's morally troubled by it. He's the only person in all of the stories who is morally troubled at all by anything, except for there's a Buddhist monk or priest there, and he's troubled, but he's troubled in a different way, in the sense that he's like, all of humanity is lost because none of humanity could possibly do any good, right? But this guy is more like a normal person who's like, well, there's good people and bad people, right? And these people were being bad people, and you're being a bad person, you know, the devil to his left, so to speak. You're being a bad person. But he wasn't naming his own issue, right? Which is that he stole the thing. He's us, basically. Like, he's the average person, right? He's the person who respects that life is going to have bad people in it, and he's not going to be naive about that, but is morally troubled by it, as is proper. That's his character. And at the end there, we get this, I think, unintentional ambiguity, and I think it's unintentional, I think maybe because of some film technique. Like, I think it's actually a technical issue. I don't know that he intended the ending to come off as ambiguous as it did. I think the pace of the edit is very bizarre at the end. And I think that might be a deficiency. It's hard for me to imagine constructing the story in such a way that it's not just an editing deficiency. But at the end there, we get this baby that was found, or was it left there? There's a whole bunch of questions, right, about this baby that's just in the ROSHOMON. And, you know, the devil to his left has stolen the kimono that's of value, that the baby was swaddled in, and he's run off and said, screw the baby, who cares? He could freeze to death for all I care. I just want to sell this kimono. And our sort of moral agent in the middle, he decides so the Buddhist priest, he grabs the baby and sort of is like lamenting the fact that this baby was just left here, and he's doing this woe is me thing again, like, you know, the world is just so bad, this baby's so innocent, and this guy just stole the baby's kimono. Like, I've heard everything bad today, you know what I mean? Like, I've heard this story, everyone's lying, now there's a baby, and this guy just took the baby's only source of warmth. It's like, what kind of depraved world do we live in, right? And and our moral agent character, after he's exposed for lying about pawning off that knife, he decides to take the baby from him. And there's this interesting moment where the priest thinks that he's going to do something bad to the baby. I'm not sure if the implication is that he thought that he might sell the baby or kill the baby or something like this. Sell the baby off into slavery, I mean. He realizes that the main character is actually trying to take the baby in, right? Like, you know, take the baby into his own home, basically. And then he says, sorry for judging you. And then he gives the baby over to him and says, you're so great for doing this. And the man walks off with the baby in his arms. And the ambiguity that people who review this film have with that ending is saying, was that a good intention, or is he also stealing the baby, actually? Like, is this the last lie, right? Did you get that impression, Ben, at all, or no?
No. It seemed like a kind of a moral resolution to everything.
I agree entirely. A lot of people don't see it that way, and I think they're reading too much into a lot of the details at the end. I think what's happening at the end is we're having a moralizing moment. We're taking the whole story and we're teaching a lesson, you know, about you know, good and evil and morality and all this stuff. Instead, I think what people are hyper focused on are the plot details, and that ends up getting you in trouble because he's kind of thrown away concern for that at the end, if that makes sense. He doesn't really like, it doesn't really matter, ultimately speaking, the details of the interaction between the priest and the dude and what his original thought was as to what he was going to do to the baby. The thematic purpose of him reacting startled is just that he has lost all hope in humanity at all. That's the only point of it, you know. There's no deeper, you know, or more complex read of that whole thing. And the reason the man is taking the baby is exactly what it looks like on the surface, because he's trying to clearly moralize the ending here by saying he's atoning for his mistake, right, of stealing that knife and lying about the whole story, or lying about his part in the story and not telling the court, right, about the whole story. He's going to take the baby in, which is a much bigger, I mean, deal, right? Like, he's going to raise this baby, you know, for the next however many years, right? And he's promising to invite the baby into his own family in sincerity, you know? And this gives the Buddhist priest in the film hope, right? That is the purpose. That whole scheme, that whole scheme is the entire purpose of the film, is to say that morality does matter, and we should have hope and aspire to atone for the bad things that we do. That is the whole moral ending of the film. And I think the other sort of theories are a little bit just wild. And the pacing of the edit at the end is just is a bit bizarre, in the sense that I think we should have spent a little bit more time in some of those close-ups and really drank in what they were feeling, because I think there's some ambiguity of what the characters are thinking in these moments that leads people to sort of have more room for interpretation than I think was meant at the end. So that's the ending of that, and I really appreciated the ending because, like I've said on this podcast a million times, more movies need moralized endings. You know, we went through a whole phase where we were all like, we're postmodernists, we don't need to tell you, like, anything about anything. This is just a film. This is just a film. Enjoy it. You know, a whole age like that. And we need more films that actually just tell us what is good about life. And this is one of those films that does it, and it does it really well at the very end there. So, yeah, that's my first Kurosawa. Oh, the last thing, the other reason that I do know that ending is like that is because the original story, which I read, the short story, I didn't read the novel, but the original short story does not have this ending at all. This ending is completely made by Kurosawa. This baby is not in the ending of the original story. I think what that means is that he decided to make the message of the original absolutely clear in his version of the story. He wanted to take that story and add a moral underpinning to it. Otherwise, I can't imagine why he would add more ambiguity on top of ambiguity. That doesn't make sense. Like, what's the point of the ending then if it's not to teach you a lesson? Now, that's my take on that. So, yeah, that's my review for ROSHOMON. I think I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. That's not a bad score. That's a good score. If you don't know, my average is 2.5. So 3.5 I describe as an average good movie, if that makes sense. And I think this is an average good movie. I think historically the impact of this movie is probably much larger than the actual artistic accomplishment. It always sounds like I'm detracting from him. I'm not trying to, you know. But I don't... It's just not going to be one of your top 10 films, almost certainly. A lot of people do put this in their top 50 lists. I don't know if I would even put it in a top 50 list, but, you know, for historical impact, I understand why it ends up there for a lot of people. So that's ROSHOMON.
Just to clarify, I said just looking through the Wikipedia page, I guess his first big film was shortly before that, Drunken Angel in 1948, Kurosawa. And ROSHOMON was not very well received critically in Japan. It was much better in the West. initially.
Fascinating.
The Japanese critics thought that he was trying to be quote Western with his film.
I don't know if I have enough historical context for what they would consider non-Western Japanese films to make a comparison, but that's interesting. That's interesting. Oh, the last thing I forgot to say, there's always something I forget to say, is that Kurosawa's characters in this film really remind me a lot of anime characters. And I don't think that's an accident. I think that I think I found the lineage. I think I found where some of the anime-isms come from about characters. And I will say it's a lot more grounded than an anime, obviously. But there's a lot of troping, heavy troping going on. And the troping is not bothersome. It's troping for the purpose of telling a legend. It's like a legendary type troping, if you get what I mean. And I think animes take that sort of legend quality and go 10,000 times the power, on the tropes and stuff like this, to the point where sometimes it's a little exhausting. But
I wonder if that's a common ancestor thing from written stuff from beforehand.
Might be. I have no idea. But definitely I was some of these could be anime characters for sure.
It's also I will note, if you're a Star Wars fan, the guy who I think plays the robber in this, I think his name's Mifume or something like that. Mm-hmm. The actor he ends up being lead actor in almost every one of Kurosawa's films. He's always pretty much after this. He's always the Jedi or not the Jedi. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. He's always the samurai or the wise, benevolent character. George Lucas actually wanted him to play Obi-Wan Kenobi in the original Star Wars film, and he said no. But,
that would have been sick, though.
And also...
that guy's amazing, by the way. I didn't mention that, but he's an amazing actor. He's phenomenal.
He really is, yes.
Yeah.
And in the film, there's a film, another one of his films, I think it's called The Hidden Fortress, which is basically it's about these two peasants in the middle of this kind of complicated war, and they find this guy who played by Mifume, and he ends up actually being the secret hidden last surviving general who's going to single-handedly take on the enemy, whatever. Heavily inspired Star Wars. The two main characters of that are essentially R2, D2, and C3PO.
Wow, that's so fascinating. I wish he was in it. He's so good. He's ridiculously good.
Lucas apparently asked him, and he refused. He thought it was kind of too silly. And also, hence, the style of fighting in the very first Star Wars film is very samurai-esque, where these heavy swords, right? And
Yeah, I will say the fight scenes in this I actually really enjoyed them, because the last fight scene in this film is so absurd, because it's trying to show that in reality, when men fight, it's not this beautiful technique riddled duel. It's just a bunch of people rolling around in the dirt, which historically speaking, that is way more accurate. That is true. That is usually people rolling around in the dirt, although in certain settings you did get some beautiful swordplay in history, but that's not the average. Kerfuffle doesn't look like that. So I thought that was funny. I was laughing the whole time until someone dies, and that's sad again.
Yeah, so if you're a Star Wars fan, you should check out Kurosawa, because Kurosawa really had a huge influence, at least the samurai films, had a huge influence on the first Star Wars film, at the very least.
Yeah. Cool. Well, let me know in the comments what you think about ROSHOMON, if you have seen it. If you're planning to see it, let me know as well. I definitely recommend the Criterion version of this film. Looked absolutely gorgeous on my projector, and sounded great, although it's all, obviously 50s audio, mono audio, so kind of leaves some to be desired from the modern ear, but the reproduction is good. It's not, gross. So Oh, go ahead. We're just gonna say something.
I haven't opened this yet, but I got the Criterion Andrei Rublev, which is probably my favorite film, and it's got a ridiculous amount of stuff on here. It's got like the original cut, and then like his own Tarkovsky's own much shorter cut, which is interesting. But he actually wanted it to be shorter, and also has his student like graduation film. I'd be interested in seeing that.
Yeah.
So I have to watch that because I have not opened this.
Criterion is doing God's work in the world of preserving film. That's for sure. Okay, well that's it for Rashomon. Next we have Arguing with Reddit. So that will be with Ben. And if you want to stick around for that, definitely stick around. And then at the end of the show will be Nathan talking about Roblox and how its potential has yet to be unlocked. So if you're curious about that, stick around. And here we go.
Mixed Media Music.
Hi, and welcome to Mixed Media Music, the portion of Mixed Media Podcast dedicated to all things music, with a particular emphasis on classical music and on media music. My name is Ben Costello. I'm a flute player and media composer in Los Angeles, and I'm tend to generally take the lead on this Mixed Media Music with some assistance by my co-hosts. I'll let them introduce themselves.
So my name is Irving Nestor. I'm a filmmaker and media entrepreneur based out of Mount Carmel, Pennsylvania, and I own a company called ROSHOMON.
My name is Nathan Nestor. I'm a 3D modeler and video game developer.
All right, so welcome to Mixed Media Music. And today on Mixed Media Music, we have our Arguing with Reddit segment. It's basically what we do is my two co-hosts have found some hot takes, controversial opinions, or interesting, questions or something like that from somewhere on the internet, although usually from Reddit, and then they present them to me. And I have not seen these, so you get my live thoughts on them. And I have picked out one for myself that I have seen, so I have some thoughts on it already. So basically, just responding to things from the internet.
Okay, and the first one here is from Nathan. So Nathan, if you want to, that's huge. If you want to explain.
Sure. This is from a subreddit called r/composer talk. Title says, How do you determine what themes, melodies to explore and develop? So it reads, I'm working on a new string quartet, and while I have a few different potential themes, I have no idea how to determine where to go with this piece. I spent some time just writing to see what happens, and it seems to lead to creation of new themes while not actually developing the old ones. How do you decide what themes or melodies to explore, and what do you do to develop them?
Well, first we have to start with the assumption of, do you want to develop things? It sounds like this person wants to take a more classical, so to speak, approach. Kind of, excuse me, moving backwards a little bit and kind of, I guess, ignoring some aspects of music in the 20th and 21st centuries where, development of themes is not necessarily the most important idea, which is fine. Although I just should note that you don't have to spend your time focusing on developing themes. And if you're going to do that, you're writing a string quartet, you're probably then writing your first movement in sonata form. And, well, you kind of have a template there, right? You have two themes, and then you have a development, and then you bring both themes back in the original form, but in the same key. So it's probably what you're doing, if that's what you're it sounds like that's what you would want to do if you're not already doing that. And you're not locked into doing that, certainly, but you're most likely doing that. So that kind of gives you a template, right? You pick your two themes, You probably want things that in some way to you fit logically, or they fit, in some way that feels right to you, or they fit in a way that, like, musically, you can just think of ways in which you can develop them. Now, let's say you have just a notebook of like themes, right? That you can pick from, and you're like, well, what do I pick? Right? I'm guessing that's more or less what this person is asking, right? They have a whole bunch of themes, and they don't quite know which ones to pick. I would just take one, right? Whatever seems to resonate with you the most for whatever reason, and see what happens with it. Yeah, and if you find that it's spinning out into something new, I mean, write that down, the new thing down. Yeah, I would be, I don't think there's any, like, hard and, like, set rule of what you do, right? Just kind of do what feels right, unless you have, like, some specific programmatic idea where you're like, well, I am trying to capture, I don't know, some story. I'm going to capture Shakespeare's The Tempest, or something like that, right? And, well, then you probably want to find a theme that you feel like, matches some aspect of The Tempest. But really, you have pretty much complete freedom to pick whatever you want, whatever resonates the most with you. Yeah.
Cool.
Hold on.
Okay.
Here's a potentially hot take, but the first comment is a pretty strong idea, I guess. Okay. It says here it says a very interesting thing you can do is to take a piece you really love and use it to model your own piece, which I don't think is particularly a hot take. But then it says, but if you can't think of a piece offhand, just use Beethoven, because in all of his compositions, he is a master without equal when it comes to compositional form and melodic and thematic development. What do you think about that?
Oh, I mean, it's hard to argue against that, but I would say you want to determine whether you are trying to write in a more lyrical fashion or in a more kind of motivic fashion. Because while Beethoven could be, like, lyrical and develop melodies that way, that's not the bulk of what he did, and that's not the stuff that he's well known for. He's well known for, like, a Fifth Symphony, right? Da-da-da-dum, and hammering, that out into every possible permutation he could with it, and, like, every potentiality of those 4 notes, right, and just 2 actual pitches, right? That sort of thing, right? Like motivic development versus, like, I have this beautiful melody, and how can I, do things with that? And if you want, like, a lyrical development, you probably would be better in general focusing more on someone like Mozart, and then looking at Tchaikovsky, who was very much kind of inspired by Mozart more so than Beethoven, although clearly obviously influenced by Beethoven as well. You might look at, like, Tchaikovsky's Fourth Symphony and ask yourself, how are these themes developed? Because it starts with, like, he deliberately is trying to echo Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, like this da-da-da-dum. He's trying to echo that, but that's almost an extra musical idea. And then it's kind of, we have this, like, waltz melody, which is in itself like a 6/8 kind of waltz-ish thing, 9/8 waltz-ish thing, which is generally, frowned upon in traditional sonata form. And then a second theme, which is very different. And yeah, you could study that piece for a very long time and ask yourself what the relationship of these 3 ideas is, and what is or isn't developed, right? And I would say, just as a hint, how I kind of feel about Tchaikovsky is that he basically develops everything before moving on to the next section. So like for it's like you could look at a very simple like a early Haydn symphony where you have theme 1, quick transition, theme 2, then repeat strictly, right? And then we have development of one of those ideas, and then theme 1 and theme 2 in the same key as theme 1, and that's his sonata form. Whereas by the time we get to Tchaikovsky, we essentially have like theme 1, development of theme 1, theme 2, some development of theme 2, and then development in like the broader sense of like or almost like a Mahlerian sense, like we got to do it, like contain the world, right? This is like complete emotional freedom here. And then theme 1 and theme 2 again. So you can explore Mozart and Tchaikovsky if you're looking for more lyrical stuff.
Cool.
Gotcha.
That was that really did squeeze the thematic lemon out of the original question. Okay, dumb joke. This next one is from you, Ben, if you want to start explaining while I put it up.
Sure. So I actually posted this in our Discord a couple of days ago, and I have to find some more sources now too for arguing with Reddit, because I guess our classical music, which is my favorite source, has been like made private. It's not searchable anymore.
There's like a Reddit strike. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate, because that's where I get most of my stuff. But this happens to be from our composer. And this is a really kind of fascinating discussion. And I kind of already written in the comments my thoughts, but I'm just going to kind of go through some of them. Okay, so the title here is Real Talk: What Happens After You Realize That Music Is Just Sound? And this person says, I've been writing music for almost a decade, and lately I've been listening to a lot more music than usual, in all sorts of different styles and genres, and absorbing a lot, and listening to stuff that I normally wouldn't listen to and don't like a lot. And I've noticed a strange change in my perception of music. Music as I knew it seems to have lost its inherent meaning. I used to think of music like a language where each unit contributes to the larger picture in a deliberate way. I'm not even sure how to describe it. Instead of a melody-harmony relationship, I'm just hearing interacting sounds. And the person says, does anybody else experience this? Okay. And lots of really fascinating responses to this.
Yeah.
Lots of people saying, well, yes, that's exactly what happens when you become a real composer, especially in the 20th and 21st century. You realize that music is just sounds. And personally, I disagree with that.
Yeah.
So
I'm a little bit confused with because I said it, I think in Discord. I think I said that like I feel like I've always heard it as just sound. I'm not entirely sure. What do you mean by not hearing it as just sound? Like for example, okay, so the person says instead of a melody harmony relationship. So is that meaning that prior that this person, like whenever he listens to music, like those things were always like in the forefront, I guess, and like the most noticeable things of a song?
Okay, so I take this as, and I get it, right? I have certainly changed quite a bit as a listener of music from when I started listening to music seriously, and when I started listening to music truly seriously was with classical music back in middle of 6th grade, okay? Where I'd say, pretty much through high school, I kind of listened to music in like a very emotional sort of way. I'm like, well, I'm feeling things in my life, and the music is like saying something about these feelings, and resonates with me, and like, I get the music, and like, and I think a lot of people tend to have something like that. As you go through your teenage years, where you're kind of experiencing emotions for the first time, certain emotions for the first time, and like with a certain intensity, and then and a lot of people like to say they really like Mahler when they're like teenagers, and then they kind of appreciate Mahler more later. But I think in general, this sort of happens to people. I'd say the same way for myself. Like I can still, occasionally have similar like listening experiences as I used to when I was younger, but I feel like music kind of resonates in a different way where I can kind of be more analytic about what I'm hearing, and I can also, in some ways, it's like I just appreciate like the sonic world that is being created, and like this is really pretty, and like I can simultaneously appreciate like more about what the piece is, its relationship to the other arts, to the composer's life, things like that. It's not so strictly like me and my feelings, and yes, this piece is like, it's for what I'm feeling right now. So I get like the sense of music, your perception of music like changing, and sometimes it does feel that way. Like, well, I'm listening to this because I'd like to listen to this piece, and it is an interesting collection of sounds, but I'm not like feeling this emotional narrative anymore to it. Like even if I can kind of like intellectually like understand what some sort of narrative of it is, I don't necessarily feel that in the same visceral way that I would have when I was younger, all the time. So I think that's probably more what this person is saying. But the question is it just sounds, right? And I kind of take issue with that. Okay, so I would because a lot of people are like, well, yeah, that's exactly what music is in the 20th century, right? It's liberating, right? Now that that it's just sound and it doesn't have any like inherent meaning to it, then you can do anything you want with it and create new cool sounds, and like okay, that's pretty much what a lot of people on the thread say. I
have a lot of disdain for these ideas.
Yeah, so my like initial response I'm responding to a particular comment, but I said, and I've said this on our show several times, but I think I'd probably lay it out in a more concise way here. So I'm just going to read this. So I write, I would argue that music is intentionally ordered sound. Not just, it's not, sorry, right? It's not, so I'm saying it's not just sound, right? Because I'm going to argue broadly that, if you're walking out, you walk out the door, right, and you live in the city, right, so there's a car, always a noise of traffic when the car is passing you. I'm going to argue that sound from like the traffic outside of your house is not music. It could be a really cool sound, but it is not music. Right, so I say, right, I would argue that music is intentionally ordered sound. Your intention can be virtually undetected and or is usually not conscious at all, but there is always human choice involved, and when choices made reveal something about oneself. I'd argue that Cage and all the chance music is intentionally ordered by that definition because the indeterminacy itself, right, the act of like something like 4 minutes and 33 seconds, right, of silence where you're supposed to just experience the sonic world around you. I argue that by that definition, indeterminacy itself is a choice informed by human experience, and the goal, even if not always consciously articulated, is informed by human experience. There are any number of pleasant and enjoyable or interesting sounds in the universe. They aren't music without intentional ordering by a being who feels and makes choices. So AI-generated music to me is just sounds and not music. Even if I prompted some AI program to write Tchaikovsky's 7th Symphony, and then tomorrow someone found a manuscript of Tchaikovsky's, I can't speak today, Tchaikovsky's 7th Symphony, and the two match note for note, only the latter would actually be music. So I think I said something very similar to that when we were talking about AI, I guess, the first time. And I got an interesting response to that comment, which is that the problem I have with this approach, as liberal as it is that if a person hears a sound from nature as the exact same kind of aesthetic response as they do with music, is it music then? The person says, personally, I think the subjective experience should trump everything else. And that is an interesting point, right? So if I do have some kind of aesthetic response to the sound of leaves rustling in the wind, I guess, right, is there a difference between an aesthetic experience and the intentional ordering of sounds? And that's a really good question. I'm not sure I have a great answer to that. My gut says that an aesthetic experience does not necessarily have to be prompted by art, and that music is art, right? Hence the intentional ordering of sounds by a human being. But I'm not sure that I'm 100% convinced of my response to that. Interestingly, too, the same person who replied to me there, there's another interesting part of this, and the person says, okay, I find this to be really interesting. Someone else says, music is sound that invokes feelings. If it doesn't, it's just noise, or even worse, din. And this person who had replied to my earlier thing says, that's an interesting take. I wonder if that means that I've never heard any music during my 54 years on this planet, since none of it has invoked feelings in me that I can recall. And he says, that seems unlikely since I'm sure we've heard many of the same pieces, and presumably you felt like those pieces invoked feelings in you. Okay, so this is an interesting point. Now, I'm not sure I fully understand this, because this person that says that they've never had any kind of emotional response, the music has never invoked any feelings in them in their 54 years of listening to music, which to me that seems somewhat improbable. Okay, so I asked, I responded and said, out of curiosity, what does a purely intellectual response to music entail, right? If you truly can't, you've never felt anything from listening to music, and you're a professional composer, this person's a professional composer, and this person says, responds that actually, what he means is that music cannot implant emotions in you. And this led to another really fascinating conversation that I had, where I agree that there's no this person points out that there's a lot of people, especially they point to our classical music, the site that no longer exists, I guess, that there's no direct transfer of emotions, where a composer is pouring their emotions into it, and yes, I can feel exactly what the composer felt, and I know this is what the piece is about, and therefore, I right. And I agree that that's not quite how emotion works in this whole process. But that, to be fair, though, a lot of Romantic era composers did feel like that's what they were doing. They were pouring their emotions into some Platonic ideal of the piece, right? And that didn't matter to them necessarily whether it resonated with you or not, but they did feel like they are taking their own feelings and putting it into sonic form. Now, and I do get why you might say, well, Tchaikovsky wrote this piece, his Fourth Symphony, right? We're talking a lot about Tchaikovsky today. He wrote this in the aftermath of his kind of failed marriage, right, where he kind of felt in some ways that if he married someone, that this could married a woman, right, that this could kind of cure his homosexuality. It didn't work very well at all. Anyway, right, some people feel like, well, I can, because he wrote this and he intentionally was kind of writing this about this negative experience in a relationship, I can therefore yes, I feel exactly what he felt. well, I understand why we might sympathize with that intellectually, right? And say, well, then therefore I know what he was thinking and wanted to express personally about like being in a negative relationship, and therefore it's easier for me to apply that to my own self in a similar situation. So I understand like why we might do that, but I also can say, well, I can get something completely different from that. It's not like a set in stone thing, right? It's like a direct transference of this is what the piece is about, as from the perspective of Tchaikovsky. Therefore, that is what I must get out of it. And I get all sorts of different things from that piece every time I listen to it. It's a really fantastic piece. Listen to it for more than just thematic development and form. Like I was saying earlier, you can definitely do it for that, but also listen to it for just, you can get any number of things out of it if you listen to it. Really fantastic piece. And sometimes composers do try to put like explicit messages in there, like Shostakovich putting his name in musical letters, and then also putting the name of this woman he was interested in after his wife died, putting her name in musical form and kind of Shostakovich and then her name. And
I need to put in musical form.
Her name is actually, well, Shostakovich is 4 notes: D, E flat, C, and B natural.
Okay.
Yeah, and hers is how many notes? Da, 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 da. Five notes.
Okay, not too bad.
Yeah. So sometimes there are like truly explicit messages in that sense. But yeah, I agree that like there's nothing inherent in music that is like, this piece must make you feel X way. But still kind of interesting to note like what the relationship between all of these things is, right? What is the relationship between like not having like the same sort of emotional wallowing in one's emotions experience and listening to music and having that kind of change as one gets older? What is music, right? Is it an ordered collection of, an intentionally ordered collection of sounds? What is the nature, like if, one has an aesthetic experience, something that is not an intentionally ordered sequence of sounds, is that music then? Or is it just an aesthetic experience? Can one enjoy music without having any kind of emotional response to it? Should we be trying to find, emotional meaning in things, or should we just let it happen? So a lot of interesting points in this conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot in there. Yeah, I always come back to the idea though, like when we talk about these things, whenever we get hyper subjective in the conversation, I always have a gut reaction of like, we could get hyper subjective about literally anything. Like you could get hyper subjective about mathematics if you really want to, and I mean that in like a technical sense. Like I could appeal to your subjective reaction to the self-evidence of certain mathematical principles, right? Like, I think these things are not that different from each other in some core principle, although in the way that they end up being consumed, they're completely different. Their purpose is completely different. Their role in our lives is completely different. But like, the subject is just you and I, like, but everything is made up of you and I, like, so I think it's a little bit simple to just say it's just sound. It's such a simple and easy thing to say, like, it's as simple and easy for me to say as it's just numbers. Like, it just doesn't really contribute that much to the conversation of what it is we're trying to study and talk about, which in the case of art is really hard to talk about, but that's okay. Like, we should still try,
Right.
Yeah.
I guess to me, all of these like works of art have to be more than the collection of their parts, right? Because yes, literally, music is just a bunch of sound waves hitting your ears, right? Like, right? And there's nothing inherently different about this particular sequence of sound waves hitting my ears than, you know, any other sound wave that might hit my ear, like when you know, I hear the backing sound of a truck, the Amazon truck backing out of a driveway or something, right? Like, there's nothing inherently, like, in a physical level different about those phenomenons.
But I would argue, the physics is fundamentally the same, but the purpose is the telos is completely different. You know, is utterly different, and that's what makes those things have different value in our lives. You know, effectively.
And now, if you do hear the Amazon truck, and like, wow, that's so beautiful. I mean, okay, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I guess you could reduce all of the arts to this.
Well, my point is you can reduce everything to this if you really, really wanted to. You know, you could reduce literally. There's no appeal to objectivity that doesn't have a subject at its core, because you cannot remove yourself and become some sort of all-seeing eye of everything. You know.
Yeah. I also think there's probably some linguistic kind of ambiguities and or discrepancies in the ways that we talk about feeling or emotion. Because I presume, you know, this guy who says music has never made him feel anything, I think it's probably made him feel something, but not in like a, you know, strongly like, wow, I feel sad, right? Like some kind of like strongly felt emotion that one can like slap an easy name on. Which is fine. Like, that's, like I said, that's kind of what I was mostly how I appreciated music, you know, when I was like from the age of like 11 to like 18 or something around there, you know. But I would still say that, like, if you listen to something and said, well, wow, that's beautiful, it may not be like this strong, like, I feel that emotion physically inside of me, but like I think that's still a something music has made you feel, right? Like, even if you feel like it's a more intellectual, like, wow, I, you know, think this collection of pitches is quite beautiful and ingenious the way that it's done. Like, I think that is still a feeling. I think that's probably at the core of what all of these, the original post and all of these comments are kind of getting to. You know, is like what is feeling, emotion, right? Is just like finding something interesting or like worthy of admiration or worthy of attention or finding something beautiful, or, you know, is that a feeling or is it a feeling truly just like I feel overwhelmingly depressed and gloomy right now, like, I don't know. I think that's probably some of the linguistic discrepancy that is motivating a lot of this.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot more to be said on the subject. We've actually expounded on the stuff related to this several times at the podcast. So if you want to, I don't know, search for, I don't even know what you would search for. I don't know, go perusing. You'll find stuff. You'll find interesting stuff. This last one is from me, and it is not a particular hot take in of itself. It is an AMA, actually, that was done by an Emmy Award-winning media composer who doesn't name themselves in the post, although their username is mbagala. So I don't know if you would know who that is.
No, I don't. Not off the top of my head.
Okay. Well, I thought there was some. I just wanted to review like some of the top few questions that got upvoted and see what your takes were on it, and if our audience could learn from it as well. So,
sure. The
top one says, "What advice would you give to for for starting out of college, as far as networking, what should your portfolio look like, etc. And then the response from the composer is, the best advice I ever got was that, sorry, my mic is like, okay, there we go. The best advice that I ever got was that instead of trying to network with the express purpose of getting hired, but instead to ask folks for informational meetings. The difference between asking for a job versus asking for help is huge, and they'll often net you the reverse results. And then gives an example, and that's the general principle behind that one. So, I don't know what your thoughts are there.
Well, I don't know about information, what exactly he means by informational meetings. Like, is it like, well, tell me about your work kind of thing? Like, going up to your record and saying, well, tell me, what are you, like, what are you working on next? Or I'm not really sure exactly what that means. I agree that, like, if you kind of walk around saying, like, well, hey, I'm a composer, and, please use me. I'd like you to use me on your next film. That's probably not the best way to go about it. I think, in general, you probably do better off if you try to connect with the person first, and then let them come to you with a job, right? Because they know who you are, and like, well, I think you're a kind of interesting person, and maybe our something about like the way we talk about like some kind of shared hobby, right? And I'll try you first. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if that's what he means by an informational meeting or not. He mentions asking for help, and I'm not sure what exactly that means. Like, do you mean like going up to another composer and saying, "Hey, I need help with like this kind of compositional matter," or as I probably wouldn't go up to a director and say, "Hey, can you help me with like, I don't know, can you help me with my website or something? Like, can you shoot a video for me?" That's probably not going to help you that much either. I don't know.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah. Let's see here. So, that's an essay. Let's see. What's the core question here? Let's see here. Asking some variation of this. I'd love to hear about how you got your first work out of school, or how you got any of your jobs since then, for that matter. And dude, I freaking love the This American... Okay, apparently this is what the person made. This American Life, Our Town. Something like that. I don't know. And the response from the composer is, in terms of getting work, I just had a lot of friends and acquaintances over the years. This doesn't sound very helpful. Mm-hmm. I called up my bros and they gave me the job. Yeah. Did the best work that I could and made sure people knew about it in a non-obnoxious way. Word gets around and people recommend you for stuff. Is there anything else? Yeah, that's pretty much the general advice there.
I'm interested in like who this person is.
The person is Marcus Bagala, who won an Emmy Award for his work on, I think he co-composed with Mark Bushale, I think, on a show called Tending Nature in 2021, and then in 2022 they were nominated but did not win a second Emmy for a feature film that was based on the same show.
I just looked up this person. I'm reading his about section.
Yeah, that's how I got it.
Okay, let's see. Authors, the documentary for Authors of Football. And Made for Each Other, a history of the bond between humans and dogs.
This guy seems like such like a dad. What the heck? Like a football and dogs. You know what I'm saying? Like a
yeah.
Very stereotypical.
Okay. Okay. So a person went to Berklee College of Music. Oh, and majored in film scoring and songwriting. Okay.
Yeah, that's how he made so many just friends who became, were useful for that kind of stuff.
Okay. Well, for one thing, so this person's coming from like the most well-connected media scoring program on the East Coast, certainly, and is a New York-based composer, which is a smaller kind of world than if you wanted to go to LA and work on a Disney film, something like that, right? Good luck, right? So I don't know quite as much about New York, although I know that it's a much smaller scene, and it seems like that's what this person's kind of doing some like smaller documentaries, which are like nothing that I've ever heard of, but have kind of achieved some moderate amounts of success. So it probably is better just how, as the person says, have friends if you're gonna like focus on a smaller market.
Yeah.
Which also kind of goes back to what I was saying in the response to the last question, right? Like you want to connect with people as people instead of like a potential person who's going to hire you, and they're more likely than to hire you, right? If they like, if you connect with someone, it's like you both, I don't know, you like samurai films, something like that, right? And like you connect over that, well, then they're probably more likely to think of you than to go searching for a composer somewhere, especially if this is in a smaller market, which New York is not like small, but like relatively, New York is a Broadway town with a kind of smaller, I think, film footprint, especially smaller film scoring footprint. But also, I think this person probably had a lot of great connections getting out of school anyway. So.
Yeah, I was scrubbing through the the rest of them, and honestly, this person's not that helpful because I feel like their career trajectory is kind of baked into their life. So, those career questions aren't as interesting. But this one was more interesting. So it says, and this will be the last one. What would you recommend to study/learn? And the answer was first learn to write, learn to do MIDI mockups, learn to do synth passes, to orchestrate and to arrange, learn basic recording techniques, learn how to mix, and learn how to master, which is a lot.
Isn't that pretty much everything?
But the separation is that versus after you've hired people to work for you that can help you with those things, then learn the storytelling and story structure, learn the language of film, and then use that to your advantage. So that's sort of the general progression.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will say that you want to understand the language of film.
Yeah.
And some people will say that that means that you understand like how directors talk about films. Or some people will think that means like you take like a intro to film class at your local community college and like so you have some sense of what film is, right? I'm not sure that like that would be something you would separate, though. I think you probably, if you really want to be a media composer, don't like do that after you've already figured all the musical stuff out, because what are you doing? Like, what's your goal, right? Your goal is to kind of understand film. So like watch films while you're learning orchestration. Like I don't think it's going to inform what kind of orchestration you want to do anyway, right? If you just kind of learn all the like the standard kind of Hollywood orchestrations and like in a vacuum. I mean, why?
Yeah.
Right.
Makes sense. Yeah, that AMA probably wasn't as useful as people probably hoped it to be.
Yeah, I think like in general, I would expect more people to be interested in like the Los Angeles route of how you do things like big filmic things in Los Angeles, and not how you go to New York and work on Made for Each Other, the history of the bond between humans and dogs. Right. But I mean, nothing wrong. Like, it sounds like this person has carved out a nice, well-paying career doing that sort of thing. But advice is probably better for a smaller market versus going to Los Angeles, or I don't know what the big film centers are in like Europe or in
London.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
I don't think he. Are the all so this he won the Los Angeles Emmy Award. Is that what they call that? Is that what the Emmy Awards are, or is that like a category?
I don't know.
I don't know either. What is it? A fake Emmy? Is he a fake Emmy award?
I think
it is. I think it is. Yeah.
Is this stolen valor?
It's not a Emmy. I'm pretty sure. This is it's for, which is weird because he's from New York, but it says recognition of excellence in the local programming of the Greater Los Angeles area.
Fascinating.
Los Angeles Area Emmy Awards. What?
Did we just get scammed and bamboozled?
I feel like if you're saying that you're an Emmy Award winner, you should probably like qualify that if you're an LA Emmy Award winner, because people don't know that this exists.
Well, that seems to be the purpose of.
Wait.
Yeah, maybe.
Interesting.
That's yikes.
Oh yeah. Okay. So there's the Emmy Awards, right? And then there is they have regional Emmy Awards, recognizing excellence in local and statewide television.
Huh. Yeah, that's very different.
I think it was yeah, it was, I don't know how to pronounce it. KCET is some like programming like company that put a show on, which I assume they operate in Los Angeles, which is why that would be, that why he'd be nominated and winning that instead of like a New York thing or something.
Yeah.
Let's see. I wanna find this on the Emmy Award winning list, but I can do that while we move on from arguing with Reddit. So
yeah. Before they do that, Kai's in the chat. He says regional Emmy is still neat, but yes, it is very different. Yeah, I think we agree there.
Yeah. Still an accomplishment, but it should probably be said.
Yeah. All right, sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for Arguing with Reddit on Mixed Media Music. Make sure you check out all of our links to our Discord and all the places you can find our podcast, and to our locals page at is it .com or .org? I can't see it anymore. I thought it was .com. Right, mixedmediapodcast.com. Yeah, so thanks for watching and listening.
Sweet. All right, next is Nathan on gaming, so here we go.
Mixed Media Gaming.
Welcome to Mixed Media Gaming. What is this image? That surprised me. But yeah, today I'll be doing a topic segment. I'll be talking about Roblox's untapped potential. I feel like if people were to like randomly join in on this podcast, they'd be like, they have the same reaction as last time I was talking about Paladins. I'd be like, why are you talking about Roblox? This is a strange thing to talk about. But hear me out, okay? We're gonna get into some things. I am wait, did I like sorry, I like imagined something. I thought you said 909 Crime said that.
No, Kai said that.
Why did I looked at the chat, I was like, he's not even in the chat. I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, wait, he's not. Sorry. Wait, he also K Cairo said, is that Lego King? Yeah, as my first thought was that looks like Lego.
Well, so here's the thing though. I typed in Roblox character as king, and they were all Lego characters without fail. So
Really?
I didn't have much time, so I just picked one.
It's just a Lego character.
Yeah, so maybe AI images has still a ways to go.
Oh wait, this is it's AI generated.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Well, yeah. Anyways, so yeah, Roblox. This topic has been on my mind for like a little bit, so it's not like there's anything recent that's like, this new thing happened, like that's crazy. Not like really. I think the thing that made me first it's been on my radar for a long time, right? But the thing that first made me like, oh, this is actually kind of getting kind of crazy, kind of quickly, was actually a video that Irving can pull up. I think I posted one video or two videos. It's one, right? I think it's one.
Yeah, just one.
Yeah. So it's Drag Frags video. It's kind of crazy how I feel like I've shown like a disproportionately high amount of Drag Frags video compared to how many I've watched on this podcast. I don't watch Drag Frags. Never. I don't watch it. Like I haven't watched it in years, right? It's just that like every single video it feels like comes from him because like I don't know. It's like when he's on my feed, it's like something crazy. Like okay, I gotta talk about this.
Do you want audio or no?
I might get confusing because he's talking, and stuff. So either really low or none at all. It's not necessary.
I'll just leave it off. Yeah.
Yeah. You can maybe skip to like gameplay. I don't know where. Oh, I think the timestamp might be timestamped in the middle because like if it's my link, Oh,
okay. Move it back to the front.
Yeah, it was the very beginning. Yeah.
Okay.
So we're looking at if you're not on audio only, it's some Roblox gameplay of a game called Frontlines. It's called is a Roblox FPS, and you might be saying, "Hey, this looks kind of strange for a Roblox game. It doesn't look very Robloxian, or it doesn't look like the Lego King at all, right?" In fact, if someone were to like show me this, like randomly, I would not assume that it's Roblox, right? Like, oh, interesting.
This is pretty gruesome for Roblox.
Yeah. Roblox. So Roblox is meant to be a children's thing, which is, I mean. Let me tell you something. If you're a parent, it's not safe for kids. Do not put your kids on Roblox, by the way. Just so you know. Unsupervised at least. If you supervise them, I don't really care.
Also, if you didn't know, their founder said something really strange a while ago that entered one of our news segments that I still can't forget, which is I wish for a world where like 30-something-year-olds or something like this are playing with 6-year-olds, and I was just like, bruh.
Yeah, we did. I remember that showing up in one of our news segments.
One of the weirdest things I've ever heard a CEO ever say. Like, bruh, no, we don't.
I don't really know about that one. That is like I can understand like maybe like if you really didn't think of that at all, like really quickly, if someone asked me, like,
CEO of the company.
Yeah, no, so he must have thought it out, right? Like it's like his whole company is like revolves around this kind of thing, right? But I feel like if someone asked me, hey. Like, would it be cool if, like, we had a platform where it was, like, safe and, like, 6-year-olds and 30-year-olds were playing with each other? Like, maybe, like, in a moment, like, yeah, and immediately, like, wait, no, that is not a good idea, Maybe you could trick me for a moment, But, I don't know what his excuse is. That's kind of strange. But perhaps, like, very, very, very wishful thinking, but is also potentially probably not safe thinking. So, yeah.
Just to interrupt here, I did find the 2021 Los Angeles Area Emmy Awards, and yes, Marcus Bagala and Mark Bashel did win for the award for music composition for Tending Nature, Preserving the Desert with the Native American Land Conservancy. So for the Los Angeles Area Emmy.
Wow, so this is really a scam. We really got bamboozled.
I mean, that's like, it's more. It's like still an award, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, this is for right. If you look at like all of the categories, this is like for Los Angeles specific area television. So this is like a, right. A lot of his categories are like local human interest news story, local business or consumer news story, right? Short promo on local sports, short promo on news, segment, right? Local environmental news story. So this is like a local broadcast, something about preserving great assets with the Native American Land Conservancy. I guess the music for that was pretty good.
I wonder how much competition there is, because I feel like on one hand it's like these are very like it's a very relatively small category compared to like the Emmys, which is like like all shows or whatever, but also it's also Los Angeles, so it could be a lot. I'm not actually sure.
It's interesting. So they, if you look at the official press release, the second page or third page, they have a breakdown before they start like listening to the awards. They have a breakdown by studio, TV studio, of how many awards each studio won, and the majority of these just won one, but then they're the big ones. So I don't know. I don't even know all these, but it's mostly K-Set, KC.
Yeah, so that's what he was part of, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. KVEA, Spectrum Sports Net, ABC7. So there's all these local channels.
So channel gets the award? The channel's contributed to it? That's kind of weird.
No, it's just that they're just, I guess, letting you know which channels are most responsible for awards. The award was given to these two guys, but I guess, So I guess with that is some is the LA County Channel, LAFC. I don't know if these are, but
football club probably is my guess. But
I guess
maybe not actually. That'd be weird if they had a little channel, but
PBS SoCal, right?
Yeah.
PBS SoCal. Right? So I don't know how many local shows are getting and local news segments are getting really fantastic scores. So I don't know.
Well, sorry.
I could try and find the nominees, but
sorry for not vetting him out before pulling up his AMA.
It was interesting. I didn't even realize this was a thing. So
yeah.
Anyway.
Right.
Back to Roblox.
Hopefully people are not confused as to what we're
I was
talking.
going to say, people are going to be confused if they're not on watching live and they're watching just the segment and they're like, what? Why is talking about the Emmys and who won the LA version of it? Well, if you don't know the context, go back to a prior episode. Ben's arguing with Reddit segment. He looks at a somewhat renowned composer for something and his Reddit AMA thread. So he bamboozled us. So that's what that's about. But anyways, back to the gameplay on screen. So that's Roblox, and Irving's first thought was it doesn't look very child friendly, right? Because Roblox is not really in this is it's very strange. It's very it feels like a very how to explain this? Sort of they're fooling themselves into thinking that they're actually doing something child safe, or they know they're not and they just don't care, right?
No, newsflash. They know they're not, and they're making lots of money. So
okay, but when you say something like 6-year-olds and 30-year-olds, it sounds like you're just fooling yourselves. You know what I'm saying?
No.
Say that if.
No. I beg to differ entirely. I think that betrayed the idea of we actually don't care what our core demographic actually is, because what we want parents to automatically put their children on this platform thinking it's a children-friendly thing, which makes us tons of money. But the people who actively spend our money on the platform really are adults because they have money to spend directly on the platform. So really, we actually are happy to have 6-year-olds playing with 30-year-olds, because the 6-year-olds will eventually turn into 30-year-olds and they'll give us money. So
I see.
It'll take a couple of years.
Yes. It's an investment. It's an investment.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe. Yeah. But it's very they they'll have things we have chat filtering and stuff like that, right? If you say even the mildest word that is slightly negative, it gets censored. It's the point where it is a meme where you'll say a very neutral how could this be offensive word, and it's censored. It's what? Can't have a normal conversation without seeing asterisks pop up randomly.
Well, the newsflash is you really shouldn't have open conversation with children.
By the way, I believe the ESRB rule is that if you have any sort of user-generated content, such as chat messages, the rating jumps up immediately to I don't know what the minimum is, but I don't think you can have an E for Everyone game that has a user-generated content, or maybe there's a certain extent to it or something like that. Maybe I'll look that up while we're talking, but because anyone can say anything, right?
Is there voice comms on Roblox?
I remember. So there wasn't for the longest time. I feel like there was something like it was like maybe like some sort of modification or something, which sounds strange because the Roblox engine is locked down pretty hard. I'm pretty sure to the point where I don't know if you should really be able to do stuff like that. I don't know. I mean, so Roblox for context uses a programming language called Lua. Lua is used in a lot of modding APIs. The reason being is that Lua is very easy to sandbox. So you can create a Lua environment that like won't have access to your entire computer and be able to do whatever it wants, which means that presumably you should be able to do things like prevent microphone access, right, for people who are creating games and stuff like that. I don't know if that actually works in practice, but I've never actually experienced a voice chatter or something like that in a Roblox game,
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't really think that's a thing. Why am I looking? I look up ESRB ratings, user-generated content, and I get like a brief history of ESRB about us. This is not what I'm looking for. Why is it general? It's all general knowledge about ESRB, but whatever. Yeah. So, anyways, yeah, a lot of negatives about Roblox. So I like to preface this by saying, I'm not saying Roblox is a good thing. Okay. If Roblox didn't exist, I'd be very fine with this idea. This is not like I don't really, I don't. It's very. I mean, let's talk about it later. There's a good video about it from a channel called People Make Games, who I have decent issues with. So it's not an endorsement of the channel, but they have a video on two videos on Roblox. I always feel like they're like is a little bit tangent, but I always feel like they're way too harsh and unforgiving, and sometimes I say things I'm like, this is like a hardly a criticism. Like this shouldn't really be a criticism, but whatever. But the Roblox one was a lot of good points. It's pretty bad, it seems. Pretty predatory practices for children, of course, who's like part of the target audience. So that's wonderful, So yeah, I'm not saying it's a good thing, but I'm just saying, there's potential for things. If this wasn't a children's platform, I wouldn't care as much. Okay. There's a lot of potential here for things that aren't like, the kind of when you think about Roblox, you think about very, not good quality games. Okay. In pretty much every way, not very good gameplay wise, graphic wise. The meme is that Roblox always looks a certain way, right? And it looks horrible. But you kind of look at a video like this, and it's like, well, how is this possible? This is kind of crazy, right? I read something briefly about some lighting update they made that allowed you to potentially to make some custom lighting stuff. It's definitely not perfect. You can the dark maps look better for sure. I'll say that. When you get into a lighter map like this, even though there's a lot of it shadowed, which might be intentional, that is a trick I used all too much when I was 3D modeling to make things look better. It's just make everything dark because then you can't see as much. And your mind will fill in the gaps of where things should be. And it's like, oh, that actually looks really good. And it's like, no, this looks pretty bad if I just turn the lights on.
Yeah. Oh no!
Yeah. So
that's a telephone.
Yeah, that's a phone. So should I keep going? I don't know how loud that is for you guys.
I think I can hear it. I can hear you right fine over it. So just keep going.
Okay. So yeah, so you have stuff like this coming out. It's kind of crazy. So we see that as I think there was genuinely a off-putting thing about the original Roblox graphics, where it's I can understand why you can't make 99% of games here. Okay, so you hear that too?
I can hear the voice.
Okay, let me mute myself.
Exactly. Okay, well, sorry about that. Those who are watching. I don't know anything about Roblox, so I can't cover for Nathan until he comes back. All I do know is I've played that one. Oh, he's back. Okay, there you go.
You played what? Phantom Forces? Was it the shooter?
No. It was some social game, one of those.
A couple in Terrorist Town.
Yeah. I played it with you for twice.
Oh, wait, was this the one where? Oh, I remember this. Yeah, because we figured out something like strategy. It was
yeah.
So okay. It's a little bit of a tangent. I don't know if, okay, I'll go down it, I guess. But so there's I think it might originate from Gmod. I'm not sure. This is not a game that typically exists as a standalone game. It's always a mod of something. But this is a game called either sometimes called Trouble in Terrorist Town or Trouble in Trader Town. I guess in Roblox called Trader Town. I wonder if there's like an actual you can't actually put the word terrorist in the name of a Roblox game. I'm curious if that's a thing, but I would definitely not be surprised considering I'm sure you cannot put that in the voice chat. It's like one of like the many words that are like, I guess that's a little bit more like it's hard to use neutrally, but yeah, but it's like a social deduction game, and we just figured out like a way of winning is like. So essentially, there are two teams. There are the innocent people and the non-innocent people, the traitors or terrorists, depending on what rendition you're playing. The traitors' goal is to just kill everybody, essentially. In innocence, the goal is to survive and kill the traitors, right? And because it's a social deduction game, only the traitors know who everyone is, whether people are innocent or traitors. The innocent people have no idea whether people are innocents or traitors. There's a little bit of mystery, right? The solution is for everyone to go into one spot and sit in one spot, because the moment a traitor does something, like, then right? Like, the moment you try, you can't, you can't actually kill everybody if everyone's in one spot. It's just too hard. So that's just the solution. So, if you want to win the game, I mean, there you go. But anyways, there it is. There it is on the screen. You have captions, so you don't actually need audio. Oh, the captions are gone. Okay, never mind. But
this is what Roblox normally looks like.
Yes, this is what Roblox normally looks like. And actually, what's that?
I don't know. I think that's a random YouTube video. I'm not liable for whatever shows up on screen. Yeah, this is actually technically a little bit better than normal Roblox, because I feel like people tend to play Roblox in third-person mode, and you look at your own character, and it's like, wow, that's hideous. It is not like a endearing Lego video game kind of that's kind of cool. It's like actually like the worst version of Lego people. Like it's like a bad version of Lego people. I don't know. It makes Minecraft look like a gourmet game. I don't know. But, I think that's accurate.
Yeah, and you'll see some limitations in that Frontlines gameplay. Like there are no shadows in Frontlines. There are no dynamic shadows. So anything that moves, like players don't cast shadows on the ground. And I don't think that exists anywhere in Roblox. I don't think any moving object will cast a shadow. Although static objects can cast shadows on moving things like players. But is Ben talking?
Oh, sorry. Oh. I was watching the video and it said like death sound.
Oh.
What is?
Oh, that's the classic Roblox. That's a meme.
Roblox. Oof. It's like it's a meme sound, but. Yeah, it's a classic sound. I actually did not know it originated in Minecraft or in Roblox for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so let me get actually into the meat of the topic of the unseen potential of Roblox. So, Roblox is not good for making money. Right? If you want to make money, you do not want to be in Roblox. That is not good. If you want, the most info, you go to that People Make Scenes video. But here's the gist of it, right? The minimum to withdraw. So the way it works is there are, you can put in-game purchases in your game, and those don't give you. You don't pay people in dollars, right? You pay people in Robux, which is the Roblox currency, right? So people buy Robux and they pay you in Robux. Now, you can just take it out as as dollars or whatever currency your country uses. But first off, Roblox has a minimum withdrawal amount you can withdraw. You can minimum withdraw $1,000. So if you make $500, you cannot withdraw it. Okay,
that's a scam.
People are out there who that definitely adds up of like random people who make $100 and then like they just never withdraw, or people who make 500 whatever it is, right, and they're never able to get 1,000, right?
We talked about this a long time ago. Spotify does that too. It's not. I think it's that high, but
yeah, I think there are many platforms where you can make money or whatever that have some sort of minimum withdrawal rate, but 1,000 is crazy. I don't think that's like unheard of.
It's on Rumble. Got to plug Rumble. It's $5. It's $5 minimum withdrawal. It's crazy. This is the only reason for minimum withdrawal is so that because withdrawals cost the company money, right? Like to process. Yeah, so it's like 25 cents, like maybe for a $5 withdrawal, right? So like. Obviously, 1,000 makes no sense in the grand scheme of things. Makes no sense at all. But yeah,
Yeah, now I think about it, I definitely take back the, maybe it's just the, delusion making them think that 30-year-olds and 6-year-olds is a good idea. This is definitely malicious, 100%. There's no reason there were $100 withdrawal limits, or limit, or minimum, I guess, rather.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how many people make 1,500, right? And I looked to withdraw, but like, dude, what if I make 500 more? I gotta wait. I gotta keep it in. I don't want to withdraw and suddenly the rest is stuck or whatever. I guess you could withdraw all of that at once. Here's the thing, right? It's like, well, let's say I'm a kid, right? I'm developing on Roblox. I'm not necessarily the bravest person. Not because not that kids are stupid, but there's just a lack of experience and brain forming that has happened. So let's say I made $500 and maybe I'm a little bit of an impatient kid. I can't quite wait to make $1,000, which is kind of crazy for a Roblox developer. But I can't wait. Now they give it to me in Robux, which I can just put back in to the company. I can just spend 500 Robux on
it's
some
so
other game.
evil.
Right?
I forgot about this whole scheme. Now I think you explained this to me in private, but this is the most evil scheme I've ever heard in my whole life.
What? I missed like the last sentence. So
Yeah,
you can.
so you let's say I had to make 500 Robux or $500 worth of Robux, whatever that comes out to be, right? And I don't feel like I'm an impatient kid or whatever. I don't feel like waiting to get 1,000. Or maybe I don't think I'm capable, whatever it is, right? I can just use those 500 Robux and spend it on some other game in Roblox, right?
In Roblox, so it stays in the ecosystem.
It stays in
which
Roblox.
means it's not money. That's it.
And guess what?
It's
Every
so evil.
transaction, Roblox has a 30% cut. So that amount of money that rotates around the system keeps getting massive swipes, massive bites taken out of the random money that's been put in the system, right? Let's say,
gosh,
What's
this
the
is
wait?
crazy.
What is the 30%? Like if I have, say I have 10 Robux, right? And I want to pay you 10 Robux for something. Does that mean that I actually pay whatever 10 Robux is in dollars plus 30% to you?
No.
I pay you 10, but then I also pay 30% to the company.
No, you pay 10, but only 7 of those go to whoever made the game. 3 goes to Roblox company.
It's so evil.
So, yeah. So what ends up happening
Wow.
is,
Okay.
let's say me as a non-Roblox developer puts in, I don't know, maybe I'm going crazy, putting $100 into Robux. I don't know why I do that, but I go put $100 into Robux. By the time that money gets out, you already know that there's been many transactions in the way, and that it's going to come out of the system as like $10. At least that's the plan from the Roblox Corporation. That'd be the why am I like the good thing from the perfect example. Jeez, that's what I'm trying to say. Perfect model of a transaction that should happen from them. That is kind of crazy.
So that means that if I've created something, right, and I'm waiting for the whatever appropriate amount of Robux is to equal $1,000, that the people are actually paying me 30%
more. The math doesn't work like that because that'd be 1,300. The 70% of 1,300 isn't 1,000.
Okay, well,
it's weird, but yeah. It's just more. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is insanity when you think the insanity is not even like the model. The insanity that it's mostly kids. That's the insanity of this whole thing. Like, how is this even legal? It's like,
well, actually,
can kids enter kids can't enter into contracts. Their contracts aren't valid, or none of they're valid. But like, they can always leave contracts, right? So like, I don't know if that poses a problem for them, but like,
I actually don't know how the kids thing is.
This is insane.
How it works. I wonder if you need a parent to sign off for some certain things or something. I have no idea.
Yeah, but your parent can't like your parent can't for example, they can't, well, I guess it gets weird. I was trying to think of like child actors and stuff like this. It gets a little bit weird. It's a little complicated. But like, I don't know, man. This is at least morally just so abhorrent. Like, Like, you're training these kids to think that, like, their labor, which is probably hours and hours and hours, is worth, like, $1 an hour, you know, like, of work, you know? And that's just so, like, abhorrent to me, because it's not like an adult who can decide what their labor is worth and then accept or reject, and if they accept a stupid deal, then that's just is what it is. But a child is being informed by this process as much as they are using the process, if you get what I mean. You know, like, that's just evil.
Yeah, and you know, because the kids, they don't really know better, right? It's like me, like, I'm not gonna go into Roblox. Like, why would that? That's so dumb. You know, like there are much better things I could do with my time.
How many children are like making things that could make money on Roblox? I don't know anything about Roblox.
So here's some numbers for reference on how popular Roblox is, right? Roblox has, oh man, I have the page open for how many users it has. Here, this was a third-party website. I have no idea how to give this number, so like, you know, take it with a grain of salt. But supposedly there are currently 1.4 million Roblox players on right now, which I believe that makes sense to me. So
worldwide.
Yeah. And as well on Roblox's own website, they said that in is there a more updated version? Well, I have the 2021 numbers. Close enough. In 2021, they don't call them games, they call them experiences. I don't know if it's a new thing because metaverse or something like that. No. But technically, you don't have to make a game on Roblox, right? That's not, you don't really have to, but like that's just what everyone does. So I don't really know. You know, I mean, but yeah, in 2021, there were 27,000 experiences that had over 100K visits. So notably. Oh wait, no, sorry, yeah, that's actually true. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. Was someone gonna say something?
So that's what people are doing on Roblox. Is most like they're just like even young kids are making games.
That's not the norm. The norm is to play the games, right?
Okay,
but just like
but young kids are making games, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It is, Roblox would have you, try to have you know that, Roblox is like a very, cool entry into video game development, which it actually is, which is the sad part, right? Like it actually is like a cool tool for just starting out, well,
that's like saying like I don't know, Top Gun is a great entry into film. It's also like military propaganda. Like, yeah, it's a fun movie. Yeah, like I love the heck. It's also like a recruitment tool. So like, like it could be two things at once. I mean, you don't want a bad recruitment tool, right? Like, you want a good one.
True. Yeah. Yeah. If you're making some software to pull, some young people who don't know what they're doing, and might as well make it good too.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Kai says, what I'm learning from this is that I should stop doing game jams for free.
Well, at least when you do a game jam, there's no like random like a company that's like siphoning the money like crazy.
Well, the game jam owner is not even making money themselves, right?
They're just doing it, I mean,
yeah.
Oh man. But yeah, and apparently according to the Roblox, the median user in 2021 played 40 unique experiences. It seems though, as an asterisk, it says measured on active users on January 1st, which like I forget why I thought that made it seem like it was more than it actually. What was January 1st? And I think like that's a lot. It's gonna be more than normal. I forget what it was, but anyways, yeah, something like 40, maybe less average players. But yeah, so definitely more people playing these things than making games. But someone has to make the games, right? People do, and there are quite a lot of them on there. I feel like this is gonna become an episode of like potential to like this is how much Roblox sucks. I have not said much about.
Just say what is the potential? I mean, it sounds like they're already, doing quite a bit to make money. So that is the goal, right?
And potential for social good,
Oh, social good. Okay.
30-year-olds playing with 6-year-olds. Oh gosh. Okay.
This is gonna be some like randomly like like in the future and like 5 years someone's gonna like be like dude Nathan one time Nathan was like Roblox is like a good thing. I was like like that's all I'm trying to say. I'm just trying to say there are places where good things could happen even if in general it still sucks. But so here's something, right? So we've seen, we've seen the graphics that there's actually potential in what we thought was impossible, right? So if you play Roblox, you'll find that a lot of these games are very low quality. Even the top games are very not like from just a technical standard. That's fair enough. These a lot of people are just kids. They don't necessarily have 20 years of 3D modeling experience under their belts. Like fair enough, but even things that they should you think that they might be okay at doing designing games and stuff like that tends to be pretty bad in my experience. And there's definitely not a lot of economic incentive to be on Roblox because, as we've mentioned before, it is just like you would just rather be on Steam or Epic Game. Literally there's no redeemable. There's no the Roblox engine is not redeemable enough on its own to make you fork over that much profit just to use Roblox or whatever. It's not like they have
dragging something on the desk. I think.
Oh, you can hear that. Oh.
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
Put that down. Just fidgeting with my fingers. Yeah, it's not much. But now, here's the thing: if that wasn't a thing, right? If they pay people normally, didn't have any weird currency that got traded within themselves 9,000 times, I think you would actually see more economic interest, obviously, and you would see formal companies actually start making games that aren't trash, right? And I think there's a lot of potential in that because you have a platform where the thing that's kind of attractive to using Roblox is the fact that everything is so easily accessible. So here's the feature. Here's the thing about Roblox. For one, everything is free, right? To play the game, you don't ever have to pay to play a game, right? So that's why you have things like players playing 40 unique games of media. That's not a thing on Steam. Okay, so typically you pay for a game on Steam. You could play free games too, but a lot of them are paid, right? And paying for 40 games a year is a lot of money, right? So instead, Roblox is a free alternative, right? Or everything is free. As well, you don't need to download the game in the same way you download a Steam game. So you download the Roblox launcher one time, and every game opens very fast from there. It's just I'm not entirely sure how they manage this. One of them might be just super simple assets, right? The character models are these they're usually these block figures, right? Very low detailed, tends to be a relatively low texture quality and stuff like that. So things load very quickly, right? I never have to think about, I want to play Frontlines. Let me go download it while I go eat dinner, right? It's no, let me play it right now. I could just open it right now. I never have played it before. I can download any game on this website right now. I don't have the Roblox launcher actually, but if I did, that I could play it right now. So yeah, that's an attractive part. So yeah, I remember thinking before that with the new web technology is coming out, that web games might be more of the future, right? And the fact because they're infinitely portable, right? You can play them on your on any computer, on your phone, whatever it is, right? This is kind of an intermediate step, right? Whereas you can leverage tools that you get from a standalone game while still leveraging tools that you get from being well, it's not a web game, but if tools that web games have, which is just the fact that it's infinitely portable, right? And you open it and it's just there, right? There's no download required. There's no cost essentially. There's zero cost financially or time wise to trying out a game. It's literally the most free thing possible, So yeah, I feel there'd be a lot of it's a lot of potential, but unfortunately because it is so trash to actually operate in the space, no reasonably sized company would ever want to do that. Now I remember getting into contact with some. Oh, Irving's camera died.
Yeah, I just realized better. Continue.
Okay. I remember getting into a conversation with randomly met like a random Roblox dev. He invited me into his Discord server, showed me a project he's working on. It was like a Halo clone type thing, and I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty cool." And he was a contractor for Roblox, actually, part of some like contract like group where essentially I think his specialty was making like military vehicles and stuff like that, like functioning military vehicles like planes and stuff like that, tanks or whatever, helicopters, and people would actually pay him, right, to create these systems. So like, it's like if you have that much economic interest that there's actually contract work being done on such a terrible platform, monetarily speaking, right? Imagine what could happen if like you could actually make more than 2 cents off of this platform, right? That'd be kind of crazy.
Can I solve the problem for you again? Because this is a good advertisement for what I'm probably going to be talking about next week.
All right.
Which is that it's simply that they're probably, actually I could probably just look this up, but their profits are probably not where you think they are. That's probably what it is. Yeah, the same issue as every other free-to-play, freemium anything. They probably don't make much.
Well, Roblox's overhead can't be that crazy because, well, actually, Roblox server, you don't own it's not your own. Oh yeah, Roblox. I'm pretty sure Roblox provides servers. It's not your own infrastructure, but you have to pay for them. I think you have to pay for like. I think you have like you can get you have one free server with some capacity limit on it. But if you're making any sort of game with more than 10 players on it, then you have to pay for a server with more capacity or something like that. Well, I'm not 100% sure. But I don't know. Roblox has to make a lot of money because, once again, you have this infinite money siphoning thing. You have the marketplace of like normal items you can buy. You have essentially free labor, pretty much. You have a relatively low overhead, I think, because even though they're servers, but it's not like you're playing like Battlefield 64 players and all the damn destruction is synchronized. It's like you're playing front lines. It's like it's a relatively simple game as far as like server synchronization goes. And because you're not serving downloads, like large downloads, you're just serving small downloads essentially every single time. So yeah, I'm curious. I guess I'm not entirely sure, but I would guess it's actually not too bad. Their profits are pretty good, but I don't know. I could be wrong.
Well, what do you think they're how much cash on hand do you think they have? Would you guess?
Oh, I don't even know. Like, this is a very I'm not good at guessing these kinds of things.
Only $4.7 million, which is like abysmally small for a business of that size, and their liabilities are. Oh wait. This doesn't make sense to me. Oh, maybe I have to review these numbers more closely. I was going to say their debts are $4.2 million, but that seems abysmally low also. I don't know how they're operating only on that much debt, but I have to look at these closer.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, so, there's some untapped potential in that, the fact that it's like actually a pretty good distribution store or whatever you want to call it, but it cannot be utilized normally because it's trash, unfortunately. It'd also be useful for once again, the idea of experiences versus games is not a bad idea. Like launching any sort of application that opens incredibly quickly without a download, being able to try it immediately is really nice. So yeah, like. Once again, a sort of mixture between like a web thing versus like a standalone application purely, which of course it is technically a standalone application, but not in the same way, right? So something in between would be very nice.
Yeah, Kai says maybe next week Irving discovers Roblox money laundering live on air.
What?
I mean, listen, it's not hard to find these things sometimes. If I really wanted to deep dive into Roblox's sheets and figure out what weird stuff is going on, I'm sure I could find it. But I realized that these numbers are in thousands, which is actually typical, so I don't know why I brain farted there. So it's actually $4.7 billion on hand, which is actually quite healthy. But $4.2 billion in liabilities, which sounds a lot more proportional. And I figured out...
What do we mean by liabilities? What is that?
Debt. debt.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm curious what like their biggest costs are. I guess surely the servers, right? That just has to be what it is.
I'm not sure. I'm not going that deep into it, but they do post a net loss every quarter of about $162 million. It's not a hard.
Well,
when you know how these things work, you know how they work.
Really? Wait, but aren't these? Wait, let me check this marketplace. So how much are these items selling for? Okay, so this is selling for like 25 Robux. What is that in dollars? 25 Robux to USD. 25.
They're actually deeper in the hole
That's
than they were
9
in
cents?
2021.
Oh, okay. I understand now.
That's what I'm saying. None of these companies. These are all zombie companies. Roblox is a zombie company. It's not a real company.
The most expensive thing on the store page is like 88 cents.
Yeah. Well,
why?
if you want to understand the entertainment economy, as I will be talking about in the next episode, and why every company in it is a zombie company, and why I could know immediately that Roblox, because of its business model, also had to be one of those companies, stay tuned next week.
Wait, isn't that like... Wait, I'm so confused. Wait, how are we going to make $1,000 if everything's $1?
You're not. That's the point. That's how depraved their stupid business model is. They're not even give they can't even give their child slave workers a lollipop for what they've done. Like, they can't even do that. It's pretty bad.
I just assumed, like, you know, like, oh, surely, like, these things are, like, worth, like, something, right? Like, because, you know, normally in video games, right, it's like, you play a game, it's like you have, like a $100 skin randomly, right? I just assumed, because this game was, like, entirely, like, the whole marketplace is skin-based, you know? Like, I thought, like, oh, well, that's something to buy, right? Surely, like, that's, like, the, you know, that's, like, expensive. I wonder if it's because they target children that, you know, children just don't have money, right? So it's, like, it's way easier to convince your parent to give you $1 than, like, $10, right?
Yes, that's exactly it.
So maybe they should just stop like targeting children? Question mark. Like,
yes, but they can't stop. They can't do that because their user base will die.
Their name is gone too. Like Roblox is like the name is dead. Like you're not like they could rebrand themselves as like Roblox for adults. No one's playing that. That's not happening. It's too late. They have to, I don't know, make a whole new brand name. But I don't know. Yeah, that'd be tough.
Yeah.
Without
looking at the numbers, I can tell you that anybody who charges per game is probably not a zombie company. Especially if they're established.
Even like Steam, like charge, like just like.
So like EA is probably not a zombie company.
Oh right, okay.
Because they use old like people's business formulations.
What about like free to play games? You know, with their
It depends on whether or not they're trying to scale to the entire globe like Roblox is. Then you're going to see a zombie company. If it's like just like their own little like one little free to play game, there's a possibility they profit. Probably a game to game thing, whether or not they profit.
This seems so like wasteful of resources. Because like,
yes,
not only are they not making like no one's making money here. Not a single human is making money in this.
No, the CEO is making money.
There's one guy making money.
The executive, well, the programmers are making money. Everyone's making money except like
sort of.
It's all a vacuum of productivity. Like the money's not actually contributing. Yeah. The money's not actually contributing to the overall economy. It's not giving the end user like any like standing benefit. You know,
it gives them like the cheapest game that anyone could whip up in like 3 seconds. You know, it's kind of strange.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a much deeper topic. The zombie companies.
Yeah. Oh wow. Maybe there is no potential.
Well, if they stick with this business model, then yeah, there really isn't. You know, but the thing is, Wall Street is stupid and will always think there is. So their stock valuation will keep going up. It's because they have to keep their business model is predicated, and I'm just guessing. I don't know much about Roblox, but just from the stuff you said, probably the attractive thing to Wall Street investors is that they've promised that they could get every single child on the planet on the platform, right? And that's how they're going to make up for the fact that children don't spend money because they don't have them.
Just have numbers.
Yeah, so they're just going to try to outgrow
the
the
scaling
problem.
Is bad because it's like okay, yeah, one person using a server and like my computer's like what the heck? Okay, cool. Yeah, one person on your server, right? And that person might spend like on average, like what's the median player spend? Like 10 cents, if even?
And here's the other thing, like all they have to do is make sure that their stock price goes up like by some small amount per year, and that'll allow them to continue to borrow and show another increase in the user base and say, look, we're another step forward. We've got 5% more users now this quarter, and their stock valuation goes up by 5%. That allows them to borrow 10% more, and then raise their user base using that 10% more in cash to raise their user base by 5%. It's an infinite money machine. We'll talk about it next time, but you know. It's a zombie company. It doesn't actually like make money.
That is concerning. But yeah,
Netflix has survived however many years as a zombie company. So, I mean, for some people, it's the infinite money machine. Actually, you know. So
right. Yeah. So my notes have frozen. By the way, like I'm using a second computer for my notes. The computer is unresponsive. So we'll be doing this off the dome for now on. Purely. I don't have much left to say, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I feel like I guess the potential really relies in the core technology of it. As I said before, you know, the fact that you can launch games instantaneously. It's really like the whole shell of it, like the whole shell of it that is, you know, very corrupt and garbage, right? It's like a layer of filth. But I think it would, you know, it would be a cool idea to create a similar system of just, you know, hey, here's an engine where it's so lightweight that, you know, users essentially download the entire game on the fly, right? And you solve many issues with that. You can solve certain, you know, technological limitations of web games. You solve portability. One thing is you actually make modding a lot better, because you can sandbox the environment if you use something like Lua, right? That part of the technology is cool too. The fact that they use a sandbox language, because like as I'm learning with Yomi Hustle and modding and stuff like that, with the servers I'm building for, it's like mods are genuinely unsafe, and it's like I have to actually screen certain mods to make sure like I won't get like a virus, you know, which no one does. So probably. Just kind of concerning, even though it's all open source, but you know, all the mods you just anyways. I won't get into it, but yeah, I don't know. I feel like you know, I wonder if it would be possible for Roblox to not only like rebrand, but essentially, I guess it's an extreme rebranding of just essentially a massive spin-off of like, here's some core technology, like. Here is this this platform you can build on top of that can build anywhere, essentially, you know. But yeah, that's sort of the potential I see, and also unlocking the environment, because as you can see, it's very locked down environment, right? Like the graphic settings, they're like it's literally like you don't have control over graphic settings essentially as a developer, more or less, you know. Unless you do some complicated stuff. You have no control over like chat features. You have no control over the way your game is networked and stuff like that. For the most part, like you can't have physical ownership over servers. That's fine if they offer servers, but I'm pretty sure hosting them yourselves is kind of impractical. Maybe you could technically do it, but unlocking that I think is a big potential as well. Now, of course, they won't do it because they'll be like, oh, you know, for the shareholders, I guess they'll be like, or for the parents, they'll be like, you know. You have to make this a safe platform. We can't have people, you know, able to do certain things. Even though, as we've seen, it doesn't really matter because there are a whole host of unsafe things on the platform. You know, not just talking about front lines. You know, that's just the start of it. That's the most mundane thing on that website. You know, but yeah, if it was unlocked, I think there would be potential for a lot of other cool applications that can come out of it. But unfortunately, it is not. So because they're very stuck in this idea of like it's for the children or whatever, you know. So yeah, I don't really think we'll see much of this potential, you know, be tapped into. I mean, we saw some potential with that Frontlines game where, you know, that was a result of them unlocking part of the lighting system or whatever, right? It's like, oh wow, that's kind of cool, you know. But in terms of like a genuinely something I would say, hey, that's a good product. I don't think we'll ever see that, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
But those are my thoughts.
Sweet. Yeah, no, that was seriously interesting. I completely forgot about their business model, so thank you for reminding me how crazy they are.
Don't use Roblox. Don't put your kids on Roblox unless you like. I mean, you probably just shouldn't do that. Actually, I don't know. There's no point in supervising. You put them on something else. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. Sweet. Well, you want to take us out of the podcast, Nathan?
Sure. Thanks for watching the Mixed Media Podcast. If you're, make sure to check out all of our other segments. This is our 100th episode, if you didn't know that. So we have 99 more episodes for you to watch. Isn't that crazy? So yeah, endless content you can watch on so many different topics. Honestly, I'm surprised I still have ideas for topics at this point. I thought I'd run out a very long time ago, but somehow I still have random ideas. So yeah. That's it. Yeah. Oh, make sure you check us out on all our platforms, especially our Discord, where you can talk to us in a more live way. Go to mixedmediapodcast.com. You'll find a link to everything. And yeah.
And shout out to our 4 awesome people. That's 909 Crime, Kai Kairos, who's in the chat, sup, Post, and who am I missing?
Rob
Sharper. Yes, there we go. And you can join them at mixedmedia.locals.com.
Yep. All right. Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching and listening.
See you next week.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule, then dead I'm on site. Wrong move, I bet they gon' ride. No need for the telephone hype, nah. No need for the snoozing. Big whip outside, I'm cruising. Big stick inside, no losing. Better watch out for the snake and Judas is. Don't ask them who this is. I bet they know what I'm moving in. I bet I show it into a dim. How you hate and then lose again? How you hating my vibes? Why you wasting my time? Getting hype on my line. Tell a man I don't want feedback, I just want relax. Brand new whip, 2-tone, I need that brand new hit. You know, like lean back, brand new bits I live in. We pack, man, you never gon' like us. Get them on sight now, let them on light. That way they know I'm more righteous. Look at my life, I'm living alright. I'm nice, you know I'm alright. Cause looking like